been out quite a long time. Not on the stage. Hello. How are you? Hello.
We're going to speak, and then we're going to be a short question and answer process. Before we ever even get started, could you all please stand and we'll take the pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. I'll first introduce our team. My name is Grace Shin. I'm the chairman for Nemaha County. My co-chair is Eileen Eakins over there at the table. We've got Dort Goodman, who is our tech person. Ann Mosier is our secretary. Jack Willick is our treasurer. Then there's Annette Hawkins from Brown County. And then where is Chris? Yeah, Chris.
Our chairman is here in the back.
Chris is somewhere in the back there. Yep. Okay. And then, of course, we got Matt Debater from Jackson County. I'd like to introduce our MC for today. He will be introducing the candidates and then going into the questions and stuff with the candidates. And we want you guys also to, maybe say a few questions, but we want to hold this thing down to, 10, 15 minutes per candidate because we've got a time schedule. The governor candidates have another meeting this evening, and it's in Wichita, so they're going to have to be traveling and moving on to another place. So we're trying to take care of the governor candidates first. So bear with me on all of that. I want to thank you all for coming this morning, this afternoon. I think it's going to be very informative. You're going to get a little bit of a taste of what the candidates and their thoughts are, their beliefs, and maybe ask some questions that maybe they haven't had before. So with that, I'm going to have Steve Sheldon, I'm sorry, I just met him this morning. So Steve Sheldon here, he's our MC, and he's going to introduce, Scott, Stephen is the manager here for the Physical Fitness Center, and he's going to give a short speech on that.
Sure. Go ahead, so I'm going to confine this to much less than 10 to 15 minutes. I'm Scott Steffes. I've been managing this facility for 10 and a half years now. A lot of you out there I know, and some of you know me as well. I'd like to, again, welcome you to being here. This is such an anomaly of epic proportion, I like to tell people, because it's so incongruous that a facility of this magnitude is in a town of 137 people. And so for us to have a nonprofit, no benefactor, no owner of any kind, and for us to survive, God, and then everybody that's involved through donations, members, and guests. And we've had a lot of really good ones in the 10 and a half years that I've been here. So, without further ado, I welcome you. I won't bore you with all the details of how we came to be. That's a story for another time because I know the governors have other things to do today. So, thank you again. Welcome, everyone, and I hope you have a great day.
Again, my name is Steve Sheldon. I'll quickly introduce myself. I was, believe it or not, I don't know who's from Seneca here. Y'all see is there still a statue downtown where I was born, or is that? If you're old enough, some of you may have known my folks, but I was born in Seneca a long time ago, and my parents were Jack and Dee Sheldon. Dad was a high school coach at Byrne for about 5 years, and so it's a little embarrassing, but from time to time I run into people say, I changed your diaper when you were a kid. A little creepy as an adult man, but as Ray said, I'm here to kind of MC this thing. Maybe this isn't a debate, so there's no refereeing. I have a long list of questions. Matt, where'd you go? Matt's in the back. We kind of thought it would be best and quickest if you have a question, Believe it or not, there might be one or two people in the crowd that might go on and on and on and on. So if you have a question, just write it down. Matt's got a bunch of note cards. Just raise your hand, write it down real quick, and chances are really good that I've got the question already on my little homework assignment here. So a little bit of, just so you kind of know who I am. I now live in Bolton, Kansas. I've been in Jackson County all my life. I have worked kind of inside the beast for a number of years. Over the last 2 decades, I've worked for organizations like the National Rifle Association, and I currently work for Judicial Watch, if you're familiar with their work. So this is just fun for me to do, so I'm happy to be here, and we're going to have some fun. So first up, we have U.S. Senator Roger Marshall campaign. Oh, and how this is going to go, if you don't mind, and I'll let you applaud in a second. We'll give them a few minutes to give their elevator speech, and then we're going to hammer them really good with questions. So just so you know, and if you're taking notes, please do. I have a few of these, but I don't have enough to pass around really. But here are my categories. So if you say, hey, I want to hear more about education, I have questions there. So we have fiscal responsibility, taxes and government spending, limited government regulation and bureaucracy, my favorite, executive authority and government accountability, constitutional government and individual liberty, spending and fiscal responsibility, accountability, school choice, parental rights, academic standards, bureaucracy and administration, teacher quality, higher education, results-oriented question, and one of my favorites, Second Amendment. Law enforcement, criminal justice, immigration, economic development, jobs and business, and it goes on. So, Matt. Oh. Okay, all right. I will project even more. I might not have a voice by the end of the day. Go ahead, from the Roger Marshall campaign.
Hi everybody, my name is James Buckley. I'm here on behalf of Senator Roger Marshall. Thanks so much for having us here today. Appreciate it. Just wanted to say a few words, what's on the Senator's mind. And first off, I think he's been big on the thing. America is back. We've got President Trump in office. The border is secure. We've passed historic tax cuts. And we're fighting for the moral fabric of our country and winning right now. So America is back. We're feeling really good. Been energized since we got the Senate majority back in 2024 and the presidency. And I just want to thank you all here that supported that in 2024, putting great candidates from Kansas and getting President Trump back in office. And with that, thinking back on the promises made, promises kept in 2020 when the senator was last elected, he promised a secure border. We've done that. We promised to help fight for rural America. We've been saving it with the Rural Transformation Fund, fighting to get a farm bill passed, a mini one in reconciliation, and hopefully the full one soon. And another big thing that Senator Marshall really saw as a big theme on the 2020 campaign was that Kansans wanted a fighter. And boy, did the Biden administration give him plenty of opportunities to fight. Whether it be them trying to close down our schools, our churches, take away our God-given rights in the Constitution. He fought tooth and nail every chance he got to fight against the Biden administration and preserve what the founders intended for this country. So I hope that his record reflects what you all want in a senator, and we sure would appreciate your support this upcoming November. It's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be a great year, though, and we look forward to the fight ahead and having you all with us. Appreciate any support you can provide. We've got yard signs, koozies, cups, anything you want, and happy to answer any questions as well.
Okay. Well, since you're not Senator Marshall, should we be kinder to you, or
whatever's fair? Whatever's fair.
All right. What subjects would you like to ask the Marshall campaign?
Just for the record, I'm not as eloquent or as intelligent as the senator, so bear with me on that.
I would like to know what his opinion or what his thoughts are on John Thune and why the Save America Act has not been getting pushed forward. And I do blame John Thune.
Okay, starting off with some softballs. I appreciate it. So first and foremost, I want to make clear that the senator is in full support of the Save America Act. He was just on TV the other day saying if there's one thing he can get done in his time left as a senator, it's get things across the finish line. Preserving our elections is the utmost pinnacle of our democracy. If we don't have safe and fair elections, what do we have at that point? And he's ready to reform the filibuster at that point to make sure that we can get that across the finish line because it is such an important piece of legislation. Now, as to why it's not getting across the finish line, that's a bit of a trickier question. We have a few folks that just don't want to vote yes on that, even with the filibuster reform, and unfortunately, they are on our side of the aisle as Republicans, so we've been trying to work tooth and nail to maybe hopefully change some hearts and minds on that, but until we get the votes, it's just the Senate rules, even with changing for the filibuster and getting to the nitty-gritty, it just becomes very tough. But I can assure you that the senator is fighting for that bill. He's shouting from the rooftops of how important it is and trying to get those last votes so we can get it across the finish line.
Do you know if Jerry Moran is one of them that's against it? Has he been voting?
So I don't want to speak on behalf of the senator. I do know I believe he is a supporter of it, but again, I don't want to speak on behalf of him. He's a different senator, so I would say just go on to congress.gov and find the vote count, but you don't want to speak on behalf of Senator Moran.
Good move. I will occasionally weigh in on my opinion too. But, I saw another hand back here. Right here, sir.
Hey.
Yes, Alan.
I'd like to have you enlighten the senator. I don't know whether he's aware of it or not aware of it, but all the politicians need to be aware. We've got a little problem that's unique here in Jackson County. The Potawatomi plan down there got lots of money, of course, now. The chief has already declared that he wants to buy up all the land and get the reservation back to the original 30-mile square. And so they've been buying up land off of the reservation. Well, that's not that big a problem to me. The problem is they put it under they put that land that's off the reservation, they put it back under the same thing as the reservation, and it takes it off the tax rolls of Jackson County. And our taxes are going up every year because they are taking a lot of land and putting it on the tribal roll. And I don't think that's really the way it should be. If they buy off the reservation, they should pay taxes. We have people that are non-Indian living on the reservation, and they pay taxes, even though they're living on the reservation, because they're not members of the tribe.
So the question is, what are you going to do about it, right?
Yeah.
That's the question.
So that is
Thanks, Alan.
a good question. Honestly, you are the first person that has brought that issue to me. Since I'm not the senator, I kind of don't want to get ahead of him on that one. But I'd be happy to take down your information and bring that to him, and maybe we can get you a response on that one.
Well,
I apologize.
Just so you know, I think in our county we're probably a little more, obviously it's a bigger issue, but it is a federal issue because they're a federally, what do I want to say? Yeah, it's a federal reservation, so the federal government applies and the locals kind of don't have much of a say in that. So
understood where
it
you're
is a
coming
federal
from.
issue.
Understood where you're coming from. I'm happy to follow up and get your information there. So I apologize.
well, I think congressmen should make it known to the federal, and because I'm sure that if you don't live around here, you don't know about it.
Understood. No, I appreciate you bringing that up.
Okay, next question. If I don't see a hand, I have one. I'll let you get an answer for the senator. What is his proudest accomplishment as an incumbent? And what would he do differently if reelected? And then I have a follow-up.
Okay, proudest accomplishment. Boy, that's a great question. I think one of the, I may get this wrong, but I think it's right. The working families tax cut last year was one of the most monumental pieces of legislation that got across the finish line. We passed no tax on tips, overtime, Social Security, enhanced child care tax credits, and small business tax deductions that really spur economic growth, and we've seen that. Manufacturing is coming back in America and Kansas specifically because of a lot of the provisions in that bill. And it touched so many things like higher education, passed basically a mini farm bill in that piece of legislation as well, and the Senator even championed a few provisions like the no tax on overtime, as well as a biofuel tax credit to create new markets for our agriculture producers and help out our biofuel producers as well. So I think that's probably the biggest legislative accomplishments, especially in this Trump administration as well. And what was the second part of that? What was
You haven't heard it yet. The hard part of the question is, what would be his biggest regret? I'm really putting you on the spot.
Oh, I don't think I can answer that one for him.
You've got a life in politics. Other topics you'd like to ask about? We about time up? Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you all for having me. I'll be over here.
Let's go with Scott.
Scott Schwab.
Who else? Who from the governor's candidate for here?
Okay.
Let's go with Scott, and then we'll go
Okay.
Stacy.
Please welcome Secretary Scott Schwab.
Great facility. Thank you all for coming out. I'm Scott Schwab, Kansas Secretary of State. And folks ask me, like, why are you running for governor? And I tell folks I don't want to be governor, just be governor. I want to do governor. It's because I've done these things. After over a decade and a half in the legislature, I became Secretary of State. Found out I was on a computer server purchased by Jack Breyer in the 1980s. My team logged into a C prompt. We found it was somewhat secure because no high school or college kid even knew what a C prompt was anymore. But we migrated off that and modernized. The result was we took business filings from every year to every other year. I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it was for us because by doing that, it cut our workload in half. So now we cut fees down because we're doing less work. We're letting the computers do the work and we made it more efficient. Kansas is in technology debt. Our systems are not even good enough for today, and we have more technology at our hands at a better price point than we ever had in the history of our state. So day one in office, I'd say every agency, you're either going to modernize, reduce, or both. If you're to increase spending, it better be so you can decrease going forward so we can finally afford some reasonable tax cuts for you all. Why are we paying for people to push paper when we have computers that'll do it for us? 2, I'm from Great Bend, y'all. When I go home, I was there just yesterday, day before, I don't know, put these together. Now the old Kiowa kitchen shut. Small towns are getting smaller. We are the agricultural epicenter of the North American continent. We need to let the whole world know that. So if there's a question on crop yields or animal or production or animal health, they know Kansas has the answers. And then they'll want to be by the answers, and we can bring small manufacturers back to communities so that we can have our schools stay open, our hospitals stay open, and keep these communities. 2, I also have a plan, it's my team's plan. I have my team's plan, which is jobs, education, agriculture, networks, and sustainability at scottschwab.com. We want to help ensure bank loans so that these beautiful downtown buildings that these small communities like yours have, you can get a loan on them so that they can be repurposed so people in town can go downtown and do stuff. The other thing that we have, we also need to finish 54 coming out of Liberal. We have to define our shoulder on a road. And we need to start working towards a 4-lane north-south corridor from I-70 to Liberal so that ag companies can get their products to market more cost-effectively. I can lower your manufacturing costs, but if I can decrease your deliverables, suddenly people are going to want to come to Kansas and be along the road. Last thing is property taxes. I have my BALD plan. I don't know how I came up with that. No, my BALD plan is better affordable living by decreasing property taxes. And just some simple points. If you sell your property for less than what the appraisal was, where's your tax refund? I think you should get one. I don't think government should be rewarded for making a mistake. They're in the get-it-right business. And if you win at the district court level on your appraisal process, I think the county should pay for your attorney. I don't think the Bully County should go after our rural farmers and our residential homeowners simply because you can't afford an attorney. And so there's 9 points there as it relates to that. So basically I'm running on 3 things. Modernize, revitalize, and fix. Modernize state governments so we can afford tax cuts. Revitalize rural communities so that families can stay home. And fix a broken, busted appraisal process. So with that, I'll take questions whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Does anybody have any topic specific? I think, again, can you give Matt,
Sure.
like, your question and, since you're an incumbent, Secretary of State, and you've been in government a while, I'll ask you some question. What would you say is your greatest accomplishment in your career in politics?
It's the things that are never in the news. When I first became, I think it was in 08, I was a state representative, and this lady emailed me and said, I don't know if you can help me. I'm in my 60s. I've been trying to get my disability and Social Security for over 30 years, and I can't get a response. Is there anything we can do? So Kevin Yoder was just elected to the Congress, and I reached out to Kevin, his office, and we worked together, and 90 days later, we found out that the federal government owed her over $500,000 worth of back payments, and they had been just stuck in federal bureaucracy. And she emailed Kevin and I and said, it is so nice to know that the people I vote for actually help me. You're never going to read about it in the paper. But man, it's just like, I helped that one. You know, and after over 20 years of helping people like that, you stack up those stories and, you know, you have a bad session on K through 12 or taxes, but you go back to these stories where people, you can unclog the gears of bureaucracy so people can get their government helping them again. Okay?
I'm going to hit one on education. In 2020, the state of Kansas spent, you know how much they spent?
Tons.
It's two-thirds of the state budget, $424 million. This is just the portion of the education part that funds universities. So $424 million for universities. The top 5 highest paid university employees average just under $1 million a year, and that does not include any of the coaches because they put that off to the side.
Yeah.
So these are taxpayer dollars. The top 5 university officials are making a cool 7 figures. Do you think there's room to cut funding among the state's 6 public universities?
Yeah, the problem is the federal loan program. If I told you I'll give you as much money as you want to buy a house, and you don't even have to prove you can pay it back, how big of a house are you going to buy? Well, that's why we're paying so much for professors, because the loan guarantees they're going to get paid by the federal government. And I have a student loan. What happens if I don't pay it back? Do you take the knowledge back out of my brain that I got? No, it's a no-lose deal. And so this is why I'm like, you can't go to forgiveness of school loans, because all you're going to do is drive up teacher pay, which drives up tuition. It's almost a form of just socialism. It's like, we're going to give them a free education, well, then we can spend as much money as we want. A lot of it's federal dollars. But the other questions we have is, why do we have all the duplication? Why does every community college teach Comp 1 online? Why not just have one? You know, in fundamentals in math, online, all these community colleges, they all teach it online. Why not just one? That way you can say, well, you're not teaching Comp 1 anymore. Why don't you focus on welders so we can get a manufacturing plant in your community? Okay.
Really big topic here, data centers, solar energy, and wind energy. So talk to us about your stance on that.
Yeah, it's all local control. If you know, Grant County wants a data center, I don't think Johnson County should tell them they can't. And if Johnson County doesn't want them to, I don't think Topeka should say they have to. And it's the same with wind. If a farmer it's his land and he wants to sell it for a windmill, that's his business. But if the county says we don't want them here, then that's fine. But you don't want monolith policy coming out of Topeka telling the locals what they got to do, any more than I like it when the federal government tells me in Topeka what I got to do.
So let me ask a follow-up then. Obviously, there have been state incentives for these
those
types
are
of things.
mostly
So
gone now. Yeah, those all expired. The only ones that haven't expired were the ones that were the permanent ones, which was part of the deal, the Hawkins coal plant.
Okay.
And then the federal subsidies were stripped back with the BBB, the beautiful bill.
Okay, property taxes, specifically home ownership, once paid for, home farm, etc., shouldn't continue to be taxed today.
Depending on the pot, like if there's a corporate farm and they're doing fine, I'm not going to say, hey, this guy's sitting on $500 million in beautiful grass ranch property in the Flint Hills, but he doesn't have to pay property taxes on that. But if you're below the property line, part of my bald plan is then you can be waived from that, because the seniors that are living to struggle to pay their property taxes, they're not even paying that much. They're paying their medical bills.
How'd my son get into farming then?
What's that?
How does my son get into farming though?
Wait, I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying, you never owned the land, so.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I mean, this,
but
the majority of the
I do know
over
this. When we tried to
65.
get rid of income taxes, it didn't go well. And I got a feeling if you just say nobody pays property taxes, it's.
Amen, that's great.
Not doing a good job keeping track of time, but maybe a couple minutes. State budget. Anybody know what the state budget is? How much is it? How much? Anybody? Any guesses? $25.6 billion. $25.6 billion. What out of that amount of money would you cut?
Well,
If you had the authority to do so.
well, I'd cut it in half if I could, but there's no way I could get the political will to do it. What happened when I was the first time I was on approach was in 2004, and we had our first budget that was over $10 million. That's how much this has exploded. And it happened coming out of the 08 crash that we got all this one-time money from the Biden administration, and Kathleen Sebelius put it on multiple years payments. It's like, here's one-time money, but they made a long-term commitment with it. When COVID came, the exact same thing happened again. And so now our budget is more than double what it was in 2004. What we have to do is quit taking on long-term commitments. And I'm going to back up the legislature on Medicaid expansion. With the BBB cutting the subsidies for Medicaid expansion, it saved the state a ton. And we got, as Republicans, we got beat up for it. But now even the hospital association is saying, boy, it's a good thing we did that, or else we'd be kicking people off services right now. Or we would have to pay.
Okay. We are out of time. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. I got to head to
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, Ray. Next up is Governor candidate Charlotte O'Hara. Right?
Okay.
Oh, okay. Did I get them mixed up?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Okay. We're all friends here, right?
Okay, I'm Charlotte O'Hara. I'm running for governor. I'm running for governor to serve you because for too long, it's been the moneyed interest that has been running the state. Example, we just gave $3 billion to the Chiefs for their stadium. Don't worry, you'll be paying for that. $1 billion to Panasonic, $826 million from the state, $200 million from the city of DeSoto. Don't worry, you're paying for that too. $154 million to Fiserv. We're re-incentivizing the Sprint campus. Oh, okay. To the Sprint campus. Sprint's gone, so we're re-incentivizing. I think that's at least, it must be close to 300 acres. And Fiserv is coming down from Milwaukee, and the last time I looked, the last 12 months, they lost 70% of their value. I mean, government is great in picking winners and losers. They're the winners, we're the losers, because we get to pay the subsidies that's being given to them. I mean, it is such a scam. We've been doing this since 1986, and we did it to ourselves. We passed 2 constitutional amendments in 1986. Reclassification and equalization, that gave us annual reappraisal, and economic development, and that opened wide the doors to all of these incentives. We've been using this for 40 years. The theory behind the economic development is that it will broaden the tax base and lower property taxes and sales taxes and income taxes for everyone. Well, this is a bunch of hooey. Doesn't work. So we've tried it for 40 years. Maybe time to try something else? Equalization and reclassification of our property taxes has given such a shift to the residential side that in Johnson County, In 1989, before the full implementation, 47% of the property tax came from residential. It is now 70%. 70%. It's the great shift. So, why am I running? I have the business background. I have the political background. I'm stubborn to the nth degree, and I know that I will stand and fight for you. I will not capitulate. And that is the problem. Our Republican Party has capitulated, 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 capitulated. I have 5 kids. I've practiced a long time saying no. So, anyway, property taxes. Abolish them. It's going to be a long, hard road. But I was in Topeka, and I was testifying in favor of the SB 488 that Senator Michael Murphy was putting forward to abolish the property taxes and go to use tax. Again, we've got a long road, and it's not just abolishing the property taxes. We've got to cut expenses. One of the places that we could cut expenses is to close the State Department of Education. Those paper shufflers cost us $300 million a year. And what paper are they shuffling? Oh, federal mandates, this, that, and the other. Does nothing to help educate our kids. Cut the federal funds. The federalization of education has been an absolute disaster. They have no business in our schools. You know who has business in our schools? You. It's the locals. Cut the money. Don't take the federal funds. It costs a fortune to comply to all the regulations that it gave us. Common Core, social emotional learning, every student succeeds, etc., etc., etc. Disasters, disasters, disasters. Do you want to ask me a question?
I do, because I agree with you entirely, except for I wonder how that math works. When you cut the federal funds, it's like cutting crack when people are used to it.
Well, but however, if you close the State Department of Education, you got $300 million there, and then all of the curriculum decisions goes to the local board. People that have a problem with what's being taught in their schools or what books in their library, like genderqueer, you go to your local school board and you say, we don't want this. We don't want this. Instead, they go, oh, well, you know, the state tells us this, and then the state says, well, the federal government tells us that. No, we've got to get it back to the locals.
Forgive me, the $300 million compares to the federal how much?
I do not have that specific number, but you know what? Our kids are the most important thing we have. And if we're not going to stand and fight for them and tell them that the federal government is not going to tell us what to teach our kids, what are we doing? And then the other thing, my number one, is life. And please, you have to vote for the direct election of our state Supreme Court justices. Since 1958, the Kansas Bar Association has held a stranglehold on who is on our state Supreme Court. And guess what? They're liberal. Guess how many liberals we have on the state Supreme Court? 6. We have one conservative. And there is a ton of money coming in from the outside that they do not want us to have direct election, because they know that, like Planned Parenthood, they're sending out all these mailers saying, vote no, vote no. Why? Well, they want to keep abortion. They want Kansas to be the abortion capital of the prairie. We lost 19,811 babies in 2024. What are we doing? This is just insane. Okay, so life, economic development, stop all the corporate welfare. Doesn't work. It does not work. If it worked, we'd all be paying less taxes. Abolish property taxes, like I said. Education, get it down to the local level. Election integrity. When I was on the Johnson County Commission, 2021 to 2025, I fought tooth and nail to not have the 2020 ballots destroyed in Johnson County, which were evidence in an ongoing investigation by our sheriff, Calvin Hayden. And our AG, Chris Kobach, wrote to our Secretary of State, Scott Schwab, and asked him, pleaded with him, not to destroy those ballots. I voted every way I possibly could to stop it, but I mean, I was one vote out of 7, but anyway, I fought. The ballots were destroyed. Calvin, he folded the investigation. He was defeated in the election. I mean, people beat him up terrible. And of course, they beat me up terrible too. That's okay. Because when you're standing for right, expect to get flack. Because when you get flack, what are you? You're over the target. You're over the target. I have 5 kids. Like I told you, I have 7 grandkids, 2 dogs, Aussies, and 1 horse. And I am ready, willing, and able to work for you.
Thank you. I think you got my list. You did not, however, mention much about Second Amendment, so talk to me about that.
Well, I was raised on a farm, so we had our little 22 rifle by the freezer on the back porch. And when I was about 12 years old, my dad said, you know, sis, it's time you learn to shoot. I thought, well, okay. And he said, you go set up some tin cans in the backyard and you just practice shoot. You know where the gun is, you know where the bullets are. Okay. So I went out, I only almost shot my toe off once. After that, gun safety was a priority for me. But that was my education. There's the gun, there's the ammo, you go out and you teach yourself.
Okay, so here's my question. What restrictions would you support on firearms?
None.
Firearms purchases? Okay.
No one has any business to know how many guns I have.
Would you
None
support,
of your business.
Would you support or promote a constitutional amendment on firearms accessories, ammunition, and things besides firearms?
You mean to have the government out of that business?
Well, there's currently, if they can't do it one way, they're going to restrict it in other ways. And so if you can't restrict the firearms, well, we'll just restrict the ammunition.
No,
so
absolutely.
There's a movement, a constitutional amendment movement to do that.
I will go all across the city of Kansas like I am right now and tell people that that is a brain dead idea because we have to maintain our Second Amendment.
Okay, what is one Kansas law, just one, you would repeal during your first year?
That's easy. SB 98. That was passed in 2025, and that's a 20-year sales tax exemption for data centers. 20 years. Oh, data centers. Oh, yeah. If you go out, I have, I think, 50 columns. I write a column every week, and I have a wonderful cartoonist. So if you want to be entertained, go out on my website, o'haraforkansas.com, and take a look. But yeah, I've got a great cartoon on data centers. Power, water, you know, and it's a local control. Oh, these cities and counties are so outgunned by the trillionaires. Are you kidding me? They come in with their song and dance and say, oh, well, this is going to be this and this and this, and it's all fool's gold. It's fool's gold. We have to say no. You know, I was thinking, as I'm driving down the highway, can you imagine I was driving down the highway? I think probably I've only driven 400 miles this week. I was going, you know, I understand the national security issue, but there is no one that has done a survey as to how many data centers do we need? What is it that we need? What is the goal? Because right now, this is nothing but a gold rush. And having been a general contractor and in the construction business, and I did a little developing, this is all spec. I mean, not all of it, but a lot of it is spec. There are people coming in and they're getting all of the approvals for the data centers. And then they're going out and trying to hook a big whale to take it. That's what they're doing, a lot of them. So how much is enough? I mean, do you realize in Virginia they have 690 million square feet of data centers? And now that the Republican, Youngkin, he put in 390 million square feet while he was there in 4 years. Now the Democrats are in, and I mean, Virginia is exploding over anti-data centers. Because guess what? It's costing them. It's not bringing money in. They know. They've got 690 million square feet.
So you're saying they're not being utilized?
Well, I'm just saying that it's not a good deal for the state. And they've got that many square feet. But I don't know how much we need. I don't know how much computing capacity we need. No one has said. It's just, we're just, build data centers, build data centers, build data centers. What's the end game?
Thank you. This is on schools. If a school district repeatedly underperforms, what action should the state take?
Well, number one, the local people have to take responsibility. But first you have to have the control. So stop the federal money and get the curriculum decisions, the real decisions, back to the local level. And then when you have a school that is failing, the parents will be there to say, hey, this is not working. And parental rights. I want to talk about parental rights. You already have an unalienable right in our Constitution that will now be 250 years old next week. Parents already have the rights. And actually, when you codify rights, then you are telling the government that they have the right to take it away from you. Keep it in the Constitution. Don't go on the state and go, oh, well, we need parent rights. No, you already have them. Stand up and take those rights. I was a homeschooler. No one came and bothered me. No one, not one person questioned anything I did.
Thank you. We're out of time.
Okay.
Next up, Stacy Rogers. And I apologize. I told Stacy she was next, and I had one of those moments. So, Stacy Rogers. Yeah. Oops. You take that. I'll get my cards.
Well, hello, everybody. This is actually my third time in Netawaka. If you have been following me at all, you know that I am traveling county to county, town to town. And when I finish up in about a week, I will have been in every single county in the state and almost every single town in this state. And I have met some amazing people along the way and heard story after story of different challenges throughout this state. And so, just like this gentleman brought up earlier, the reason that I'm running is because nobody's ever found out about the issue here and done anything about it, because people aren't listening to you. And when I first started, that was the reason that I got in, was because people said, nobody cares about us, nobody's working for us, we don't like the people we're electing, but there's never a better option. We don't feel heard. And I looked them in the eye, and the state line stops at Salina, but no matter where I stand in the state, I hear those exact same things. And I said, well, I care. And I'll listen to you. And I'll work for you. And I'll come where you are and talk to you. And so that's what I did. And last year, when I was in Quinter, I had been invited out. And I was told when I was out there, I was the first candidate for governor to be there in 18 years. And that's when I decided that I needed to go county to county, town to town, and meet with as many people where they are. Not demand you come to me. I'm so glad you guys came out today. But the majority of voters will never walk into here and listen to what's going on. And they still deserve to be heard. And they just still deserve to be worked for. So that's what I've been doing. I am the new kid on the block, so to speak. I'm not currently in politics. I'm a business owner. My lieutenant is Michael Smith out of Leavenworth. He's a county commissioner, and he's got about 40 years of experience in local government. So he's been mayor. He was mayor of the year, president of the Mayor's Association. He's been city administrator, county commissioner, and chief of police. And so he has a lot to say about the state versus the cities and counties. So earlier, it was said that about local control and things need to be on the city and county. Maybe if you sell your house and it's too, you don't sell it for what it's worth, you don't sell it for what they're charging you, you should get a refund. Well, the problem is that goes back on the county and actually starts further harm. So how about we just get it right to begin with? Okay. So one of the things that I do talk about, I'm sure it'll be a question as well, is getting rid of property tax, getting rid of taxes in general, and funding the local and county budgets a different way. And that solves a myriad of problems. It keeps people from feeling like they are penalized for taking care of their property. It keeps people from intentionally trashing the outside of their property, which I have been told multiple times around the state is occurring. It takes care of funding those local budgets through the unfunded mandates, because unfortunately we do need things in our counties. Now, do the cities and counties need to do their best job of being good stewards of the money? You betcha. But we all need to work together on this and stop blaming both sides. And so one of the reasons that I chose my lieutenant was to heal that relationship between city and county and state and get back to working for the people of this state. There's a lot of distrust between local government and state because of things state has directly done to them, such as the removal of LABTR, which was funding, taking care of some of those mandates. That's now been pushed back on you guys. There's things that they dug holes with, such as star bonds, the massive overuse of star bonds. And a lot of people didn't know about those until the Chiefs deal and didn't really understand how many we have in the state. We have 17 of them active right now, 3 more on the way. And about between 65 and 75% estimated lives within 5 miles of a star bond area now. So if you don't think you're directly affected by it, you probably are. Most of our major towns and cities in this state have a star bond in it now. They're the most overused economic development tool that has been shown not to work over and over. And it pulls millions and millions and millions of dollars a year out of our local budgets and into the pockets of investors. And it's a problem. They had the chance to sunset it this last legislative session. They quietly renewed it at the end. So it'll take us decades to dig out a star bond, and we don't have decades to wait to have property tax relief. So we're going to have to find another way. With a declining population and a declining birth rate, we have a funnel system going on that's unsustainable. More and more of the burden is put on fewer and fewer people every year. And there's other decisions that the state made along the way that also contributed to why your property taxes are higher. I won't get into every single detail. But I am looking at multiple plans that legislators have, because it's not going to be a one plan fixes it all. It's going to be multiple things that we're going to have to put in place. I'm looking at recreational tax on our hunters that come in, buy the land, jack the price up of the land so that your property taxes go up there, and then leave and don't really benefit our communities. I don't want to penalize an out-of-state owner that's actually coming in and farming the land, but the hunters that are coming in are not farming the land or allowing it to be farmed. They're also buying up housing. And that could be housing that could have a family in it, contributing to the community. And instead they sit there and rot. I was talking with one gentleman in Northwest Kansas the other day, and there's a house that's been sitting there for 6 years. Completely empty, just falling down, because the hunter bought it and never came back. That could be used for a family. So we've got to address some of those issues. I know that energy projects and data centers are a big topic, and I'm happy to talk about those. I am the inaugural signer of a pledge to put some guardrails in place at the state level. And the reason that we need those guardrails is because these companies are predatory. They are lying. I heard it back when I was in city council, back when my kids were little. By the way, I have 3 boys. They're now 33, 28, and 22. But back when they were little, I was on a city council, and it was when wind came in, and they sold us, it's the best thing since sliced bread. And we're going to be making money hand over fist. Your utility bills are going to go to nothing. Heck, we're going to be selling it back and making all this money. And it was a lie. And I hear those exact same things said about the energy projects that are currently being proposed and the data center project. And I've been pulled into almost every single data center project, wind project, solar project in this entire state and listened to the communities say over and over, we don't want these. And sometimes the communities will listen. Sometimes the local government will listen, but sometimes they won't. And what we're finding out now, why I think some of them aren't able to, and so I cut them just a little bit of slack, is that they are being threatened with lawsuits.
Oh, that's normal.
I know. If they don't allow it in, if you don't allow us in, we're going to sue you. They back them into a corner so they cannot do the will of the people. And that's just flat wrong. So we need to put some guardrails in place to protect our citizens, our towns, and our counties from predatory action and make them be transparent, hold them accountable, and make sure that whatever does come into the state actually benefits us. I think I'll stop there.
Okay.
Ask some questions.
Are there any themed questions, any topics you want me to hit on?
What is your how are you going to fight corruption? Because that's what's
Yes.
wrong with government, right?
Yeah, so I've talked about that from the beginning. One of the things that I've been putting together a team of people, and I don't want to divulge exactly who that team is, but they're good. I'm really excited about them. But it's going to be a surgical look at the state. So it's not going to be a chop off the top and, gosh, we've got to claw some stuff back because we harmed some things. We're going to look at each and every department, each and every program, each and everything, and make sure that we're actually utilizing those funds correctly. The unemployment thing that happened back in 2020, nobody's ever given good answers. I have people who are still trying to fight that and get that off their taxes because somebody took unemployment out in their name during COVID. And nobody's ever answered them at state level. Yeah, that's funny. But there's no corruption, right? There's no corruption at all. Yeah, so those are things that are going to be looked at very, very in great
It's out of
detail.
balance, but it's all corrupt.
Right, absolutely, 100%.
I'm not going to answer that question for you, but I have ideas there.
Yeah,
Trust me.
yeah.
What's the single biggest example of government waste in Kansas? Just the top one. And what will you do to eliminate?
Well, gosh, there's so many to choose from.
Just one.
Just one. I don't know that I would say the biggest one because, honestly, any candidate that says that they know exactly what they're going to do when they get in that office, they know the ABC 1, 2, 3 exact plan, they're not telling you the truth because there's a lot of things they don't know. And so once I'm in there and I can see the full range of information, I'll know what the biggest thing is that's wasteful. But I mean, there's multiple areas. Our education system by itself, we put way too much money into it, and it doesn't go to the teachers and the students. It sits in administration. Roughly about 40% of our education budget goes into administration. So one of my ideas with that is to consolidate superintendents over multiple districts. I know it's happening in some areas already, but that would take care. I'll use Dickinson County for an example, just because I know their numbers. Then we have Abilene, then we have 4 other districts. The number of students in those 4 districts equal to about what sits in Abilene school district. You would save Dickinson County alone $400,000 a year just simply by putting one superintendent over those 4 districts. Nobody's school gets closed, nobody loses their identity or their rivalry, and districts aren't combined. But it would save a lot of money, and we'd be able to put that back towards good teacher retention and student learning. We have lost sight of the purpose of education, which is to prepare children for adulthood with proficiency. And as an employer, I have hired these kids as old as 30 who have no idea how to do basic things. And I spend a lot of my time having to teach them basic skills that they should have learned during their years of education. So I think that's...
Okay. This is kind of under limited government, individual liberty. What one, if you could just wave a magic wand, what one Kansas law would you repeal during your first year because it unnecessarily limits liberty?
Well, that's a good question. I'd have to look into that to see which one I think limits liberty the most.
How about just topical? Like, what do you feel like? I mean, I can give you some.
Yeah, give me some. I'll tell you what.
How about occupational licensing? Should a barber or a cosmetologist have to pay a fee and get a government license to cut somebody's hair? That's like literally the easiest one out there.
Yeah. No, I don't think that that's, I think that we have a lot of red tape that we push a lot of people through, a lot of businesses in general, just to be able to do business in the state. So that, there's a lot of things that we could clear out just with that.
In preparation for this, at the last minute this morning, I printed off our state budget by category. And if you want to get really mad, I will share them with you and I'll give you the list. I was not aware of this, how many boards there are like that get millions and hundreds of millions of dollars to oversee something, which sounds great. You know, I want my doctors overseen, I want my pharmacy overseen.
Yeah.
But you know, my barber, I'm willing to kind of start there. Like, I really think that's one.
Yeah. Now I would say
that's right, exactly. Let the market determine. Yeah, I'm pretty convinced that they're probably not going to give me, you know, cooties or something. Here, so, if Republican legislative leaders passed a bill expanding government, which they do every year, has government ever gotten smaller in anybody's lifetime? Right? Hadn't in mind. Would you veto it?
Yes. And the premise is yes, but the bill, I would have to see exactly what we're talking about.
Okay. What principle in there would you not compromise?
I mean, most of the bills that are being passed. Here's one of the things I like: simple, one-page legislation. And what happens with a lot of legislation is it gets packed full of a bunch of junk. To hope we got this good thing we want to get passed, so we'll stuff a whole bunch more into it because we know it's going to pass, and we get a lot of these things that don't need to be in there. That needs to stop, 100%.
We have to cut off our
I
time.
know.
Thank you so much.
I am happy to answer anyone's questions.
Okay, the powers that be told me that we need a 5-10 minute break. So what time do we have now? 12:16. So 12:25. Would that work for everybody? And then next up is Senator Masterson. Oh yeah, there's food. I can see that. While we're waiting, kind of comment. Any topics you want to focus more on than others, or is everybody kind of pretty happy with how this is going? It should, yeah. And most of them have addressed that, have they not? Yeah, okay. Yeah, problem is I've got it on my list, but I've got about 80 other questions too. So. Ma'am?
For those of us who are retired citizens,
right?
How do we get cost of living? Oh, yeah. We have not had a cost of living
from
30 years.
State level?
From the state level.
Yeah, okay.
For 30 years, we have not had.
Okay. I'll ask one of them now.
What has the cost of living gone up?
All right, thank you. All settle down really quickly. Next up, we have Senator Ty Masterson running for governor. Thank you, Steve.
I'll just give you a few things about myself, and I can't wait to get the question and answer because that's what I prefer. I'd like to have conversations around what you guys want to talk about. For those that don't know me, born and raised in Butler County, Kansas geography that's kind of east of Wichita, out in the country between our big city, Augusta and El Dorado. So I was born in El Dorado, graduated high school in Augusta. Still, sure, for me to hold that? Yeah. Blue light towards my face. All right. Anyway, born and raised down there, 3 brothers, grew up on the backside of a dairy farm. My heritage, my father and his grandfather. Can't hear it. A little bit louder? Now I feel like I'm yelling at people. I'm sorry.
That microphone just for these cameras.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can I apologize to these guys? Anyway, so grew up there. My heritage, my great-grandfathers, they were cattle ranchers, but they lost everything back in the Big Depression in the 1930s. So they lost the ground, the cattle, everything. So my dad ended up working for Beach Aircraft in Wichita. He would drive in 45 minutes into town to work. So that's how we grew up on what I call it, a wannabe farm. We had 5 acres. It was mostly just big gardens, right? And then, so we learned to weed. Boy, me and the boys, we learned to weed, milk cows, and then we'd have a few head. But that's how I grew up. I met my wife there, Central Christian Church. She is, where did she go? My amazing wife is back here in the back. We've been married going for 32 years. I know that's not a record, but we're going for one. We'll just see how long we live. We have 6 children. They are now all adults between 19 and 31. We have 8 grandchildren so far. 3 of the 6 are married. So I said we only have half the team on the field, so I'm excited for where we go there. But I say that to say, because that is my 30,000-foot why I've done anything that I do as it relates to Topeka and Kansas. Because all 6 of our children have chosen to live and raise their families in Kansas, close to us. As a matter of fact, you get the chaos of politics. We set aside every Sunday, and all the kids and grandkids come over, and that is kind of the reset, right, of why we do what we do. And so I have a deeply vested interest in this state to make sure it's a great place to live, work, and raise a family. Right? We have been exporting our children, so we have to do something different. And frankly, a couple of my children could probably go make more money somewhere else. So I admire them so much for choosing to stay here and build their families close to us. So that's a 30,000-foot why. We all have a pitch. This is what I hate about primaries, honestly, is it's kind of a family discussion, right? Hopefully you agree about 95% of things, but then you bloody everybody up for 5% to try to get it. I don't want to get divorced over squeezing the toothpaste wrong. So you're not going to find me criticizing too harshly any of my other candidates, because I think all of them are better than a Democrat. That's what we got to understand. We've come better. We've got to thank you. Whoever's clapping that, thank you. Because that is the party thing. That's the party of open borders, mail-in elections, fraud. Just pick your thing. Yeah, so we have to come back together at the end of this thing and defeat the Democrats. That's goal number 1. And I'll tell you, so some of you may know, some of you may not, the president came in and evaluated the races and endorsed me a few weeks ago. And he did that. I was amazed at the depth they put into evaluating the candidates and stuff. And what they ended up seeing about me really fits what my pitch is as a candidate. I'm the battle-tested, proven leader. And that's what Trump liked. Trump sees himself as a battle-tested leader. Quite frankly, I don't know if there's anybody more battle-tested than him. Right? And they thought the difference between Trump 1, Trump 2. Right? Trump 1 came in completely from the outside, no experience, boom, struggled to get things that was still great. But look what he did in Trump 2. When he had the operational knowledge of how to what he was able to do, hit the ground running, I was amazed at what they were able to do. So that's what they did their evaluation. It came out strong for us. And I've got that record on multiple things. So I say I'm the leader with the record and the relationships to move on day 1, which is what we need. All we know as Republicans is that we have President Trump for 2 more years. I pray to God we get the presidency back and we don't lose majorities in the House and the Senate federally, because that'll stifle everything. But all we know for sure is we got Trump for 2 more years. And he wanted somebody that could move day 1. And that's what we're going to do. And actually his endorsement of me allowed me to choose a lieutenant governor from the operational list. So many of them have to choose political lists. I need a certain gender or a good area of the state or demographic. But my lieutenant governor, Big Jeff Klemp, is I've seen him operate. He's an accomplished businessman and has the ability to do some amazing things when we get their data. And because of that, I'm asking you to evaluate everybody's pitch. We all have them. Right? My pitch, battle test, proven conservative leader. Others have a pitch, but evaluate it. I have the record. What you have in me that you don't have in anybody else is, I'm not a gambler. You can go and look at it, whether your issue is life, Second Amendment, taxes, anything, you can go look at it. But what I'd ask you to do is evaluate my record from the point of truth, not from somebody else's misrepresentation of my record. I think I might even touch on this since I see some desk where I see the signs out. Here's this turbine tie thing that's coming up. It's kind of funny because it's like, that feels a little desperate. Here's the truth on that. So there was a 10 years ago when, by the way, the conservatives didn't control the whole chamber. We were stripping away lifetime abatements that were sent to, that wind and solar were given under Sebelius, lifetime abatements. And we had in our law mandates that they include certain high percentages of wind and solar energy, forcing our power companies to include high portfolios of wind and solar. And we were stripping that away. That was the compromise to pull it down, because 10 years got parity with oil and gas and nuclear. That was our argument, right? We want parity. You're giving this special treatment out here. We were pulling that away. But every good lie has a hint of truth in it. The truth was, we were pulling that away. Every single Republican voted for it because we were doing it. Former Representative Randy Garber here, he voted for it. I voted for it. I think, so I'm trying to hear your former senator, is that Pyle, he voted for it because we were stripping it away. So that's just, I say, evaluate the record from a position of truth. Because anything, if there's a matter of fact, you got anything, anyone in here seen something on social media and you have a problem with what I did or you think I did, I would love for you to come to my table and ask me about it. It's kind of like Proverbs 18, right? Every side seems right till the other guy shows up and gives you the rest of the story. And I'd like to be that rest of the story. But it is because I've been the man in any battle. We protected our girls' sports. We've stopped trans surgery. We took the state level out of property tax. It wasn't a lot. It was about $90 million. But if we're going after property taxes, that's a crisis level in the state. I don't even know how it's constitutional. I guess I'm not an attorney, but somehow they've determined it is. So we have to put constraints. And that's what the state can do to the property. The complexity there, state, it's all local. But the state has to constrain it. Government needs constraints. Forcible constraints. Because what I'm doing up there, I had an amazing Republican caucus come into the Senate in 2024. By the way, thank you for Craig Ballot. You guys so we were functionally able to do a lot. But I set all conservatives on the appropriating committee, what we call Ways and Means there. And even my strongest conservatives, there wasn't a single one of them that didn't add something to the budget. Right? Because it's like, this was important to me, but this was important to you, but this was important to you. Well, it's consensus of government, so you pool up and you do a little bit of everybody's thing. And this is the most conservative legislature we've had. First time I've seen a functional supermajority. So you have to have outside constraints. I'm all for taxpayer bill of rights like they have in Colorado. That's the only thing saving that state is it turns purple and blue. Because there's a constitutional restrictor on them. And we need to put those same constraints down on local government, where the locals, we have way too many taxing authorities. And when you have those taxing authorities, they get to sit there, and I want this and that, and then I get the tax to get it. There needs to be constraints where the decision is this or that, because I have to prioritize. Because there are good people out there in these positions, but that's a very difficult decision to make, so there has to be outside constraints by the people on government. So, got about 5 minutes. 5 minutes. That include question and answer. But let's get question and answer.
So this is kind of my incumbent question. What's your proudest accomplishment as an incumbent, and what would you do differently if reelected?
Some of the big things, my proudest accomplishments are around some of the things like Second Amendment, because those are big ticket items. When I first came in, you could not carry a weapon in Kansas. You couldn't get a permit for it. And now we fought. Now you have a constitutional right to protect yourself. Period. And that's the way it should be. So proud of things like that. Proud of the strides we took on the life front. This Cody's decision has caused some issues there, but the things we've done there. And I'm a big.
Let me follow up with that a little bit. I'm going to interject here. NRA 10-year employee years ago, so I was kind of a part of all that as well. And I'm as adamantly pro-life as they come. And one of the issues I think we have in the pro-life movement is we're what I call absolutists. We want it all right now. We're not willing to compromise. But that's not how we got to where we got with the gun issue. So how would you kind of turn the water up a little bit at a time on pushing back against the abortion industry rather than just a full swoop, do it all at once.
And that is a conversation sometimes is counterintuitive. You talked about those that are kind of all or nothing. What I have learned in consensus government, if you're an all or nothing person, you're going to get nothing. That just is that's just the way it is. And the two extreme views, what the extreme it's called extreme because the fewest percentage of people subscribe to them. The most extreme view is the view the Democrats have right now, unrestricted abortion, to and through birth. That's the most extreme view, but that's what we currently are looking at. The second is complete abolition, no exception. Right? So but abortion itself is an 80-20 issue on the big ticket items. 80% of people, this is Republican, Democrat, 80% of people, they want fewer, they want no late term, they want no taxpayer funded, they want more options for adoption. We can continue to whittle away at this as we move forward. By the way, if I've only got 5 minutes, I need to touch on one thing. Does everybody in here know you have a question on your ballot in August to elect the Supreme Court? Yes. Please put that is, by the way, that is, as much as I'm invested in the governor's race, that is the most important question on your ballot. Whoever's governor, it's going to be max 2 terms, 8 years. That is restoring the Kansas people in control of the judicial branch. And it's not about any given decision. You're going to see all that. But it is about restoring Kansas values to the Supreme Court. Because you have no say in the Supreme Court. And I think I can demonstrate that to you and how important this is. How many of you, because this is an informed crowd, right? If you're coming here, that tells me you're informed in politics. You're using your Saturday here. How many of you know we've had 2 Supreme Court justices resign in the last 12 months? One's been replaced and one's about to be. And don't feel bad if you don't know that. Yeah, because you come to all the speeches. So this is the demonstration of why it's so important. The one that resigned nearly 12 months ago has been replaced. We're the only state in the country that has a nominating commission controlled by 5 lawyers, elected by only lawyers. That's the condition. We're the only state that does that. And they'll tell you, you're going to see a bunch of $1 million spent on advertisement, say that's all about merit. That's BS. Because it is not merit. The woman that they chose to replace the last one, never been a judge before. In her own words, said she had no judicial philosophy by which to interpret the Constitution. She is a Supreme Court justice today. And you have nothing to say about it. Second, the next one resigned. The nominating commission just put up 3 names, one of which, because we have Senate confirmation at the appellate level, one of which was she tried to appoint twice to the appellate level, and the Kansas Senate said, no, this guy's a radical. He's the one from Lawrence that blocked the Help Not Harm bill that was protecting youth from trans surgeries. He blocked that, and if she chooses him, will be on the Supreme Court without your consent. So that's why I'm sorry, I got a little tangent there, but that's how important that question is on your back.
I appreciate that, and here's a follow-up to that. The one objection I see, and I pay a lot of attention to social media, the one objection I see coming from our side, and it really troubles me, is that, well, we don't want all that money in there influencing the judiciary. How would you answer that?
Yeah, well, here's the deal. They're telling you politics, that keeps politics out of it. Politics are in it. They're just in a dark, closed room. That's what elections are, is making your case in front of the Kansas people. If you go to court and you sit in front of a jury, that's not sitting in front of a jury of 5 experts. It's a jury of your peers. That's who you sit in front of. That's what elections are. That is putting yourself out. Sometimes elections can be messy, but it is worth the money for you guys to know who's sitting on that court. That's the only way you operate America from the bottom up. Right? Elections are messy. And you'll see it because some of my opponents struggle with telling the truth. So it's messy. But it is the only way that you really rule from the people up. So I'd say whatever money's spent, and you see it's the plurality, the most common way we do it across the nation. 22 states elect. We used to elect. And we need that. You guys need the power back in the judicial branch.
Thank you. I appreciate you answering that question because I got that. All right. Thank you so much. Next up, Sarnecki. Okay. Where are you? Where? Okay. Mr. Philip Sarnecki, right? Sarnecki. All right. That's good. I'll forget it in 5 seconds. I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't
amplify your voice.
Oh, okay, good to know. So I'm speaking into it. So I'm out there walking around, checking out the equipment. I'm like, wow, this is a really nice place. I needed to use the restroom. I started to wander into the women's restroom. And I'm thinking to myself, my record's been so lied about and so distorted by other people, I can't even imagine the headline. If somebody had seen me starting to walk into the women's restroom. So fortunately, I caught myself and looked around and nobody saw me. So that was a good thing. Thank you all for coming out today. Great to be here. And really, really appreciate all the work that you all put in. Because to come out on a Saturday, as was mentioned, you all are engaged and you're doing the hard work, and that's such a blessing that you're all doing that. So for those of you that don't know me, Philip Sarnecki, tell you a little bit about my background. I grew up in a really small town, although not quite as small as this one. We were about maybe 1,000 people on a good day. A little farming community. I grew up, my father, after high school, was in the Army, went to Vietnam. My dad came back. He had perfect vision when he went to Vietnam, but because of Agent Orange, when he came back, my dad was legally blind at night. And so he didn't have a lot of career options. My dad was actually a janitor for about 35 years. My mom was a secretary. And I grew up watching my parents work really hard. My parents worked most of the time growing up multiple jobs. They worked 2 and 3 jobs just to keep, try to keep the finances together. I grew up in a little 950 square foot home. And if I wanted money growing up, I had to go out and work for it. So I have a younger brother, I have a younger sister that lives in Wichita, and we would mow lawns, we would deliver newspapers, we walk beans, if anybody's familiar with bean walking, which is a miserable, miserable job. So I grew up working hard, really out of necessity, playing sports, and I look back on that today, and I will tell you, I didn't like growing up without money. I think when you probably get to about 12 or 13 years old, you realize, I can't do the things that the other kids can do. We don't do the things that the other, families can do. But all these years later, I look back on my upbringing, and I could not be more thankful and more grateful. I literally wouldn't change it for all the money in the world. Because my father passed away about 1.5 years ago. My parents were married for 58 years. We built a guest home on our property where my mom still lives. My mom and dad have lived there. And my parents taught me about what I believe are the things that are really important in life: faith, family, hard work, and sacrifice. And that's what I saw my parents doing, as I grew up. And so I went on to college, got the opportunity to play. I played a year of football in college. Actually, scratch that. I practiced a year of football in college. I never actually got to play. I got hurt. It was my 3rd knee surgery, which you're not interested in, and I don't blame you. But here's what happened. After I got hurt, which, for a 19-year-old kid is pretty disappointing. You've worked really, really hard throughout high school to be able to play ball in college, and then you get hurt. But, God has a way sometimes of taking our biggest setbacks, or at least I thought at the time, one of my biggest setbacks, and really turning them and using them for the greater good. And because my parents didn't have money to help me for college, if I wanted to go to college, pay tuition, room and board, buy a car, etc., I had to do that myself. And instead of getting a regular job, what I actually did, I was a teenager, I was 19 years old, going into my sophomore year in college, and I started my first business. And that business, over the next 30 years, 3+ decades, became the 3 companies I just sold to run for governor. So we sold our insurance company and our wealth management company back in August, and then we had an employee benefits company that I sold April 1st to do this. So, and we're very proud of that business. We had 18 offices in a dozen states, and we also, I'm the largest franchise owner for Strickland Brothers Quick Lube, so we're in the Quick Lube business. We have a leadership development company. We have an auto detail company out in Arizona. And then I've actually been a partner in a movie production company for the last 15 years. We do faith and family movies, and that's been a lot of fun.
So for the last 35 years, I have been building companies, building businesses, and creating jobs, including all over the state of Kansas. So the question obviously I get, especially when I first started this about 10 months ago, was pretty simple. Why would you do this? Why would you leave this comfort zone that you've been in for over 3 decades and go run for governor? And I say to you, that is a great question. That is a really good question. And but let me tell you what was going on in Kansas. So President Trump has won Kansas 3 times. And he's won it by overwhelming margins, 15, 16, and 21%, okay? Landslides. We are the longest running state in the country without a Democratic senator. Kansas has not had a Democratic U.S. senator in almost 100 years. Okay, I don't know if you all knew that. We have super majorities in the state House and the state Senate, the Republicans do. And in spite of Johnson County, Republicans, registered Republicans, still dramatically outnumber registered Democrats in the state of Kansas. So the question then is, kind of obvious, how have we ended up with a Democratic governor for the last 7.5 years? How have we done that? Exactly. That's what I started asking. And so I was complaining about losing the governor's race in 2022. My wife, Heidi, my wonderful wife of 28 years, I was complaining to her. She kind of says I was ranting and raving after losing the governor's race in 2022. And she listened to me very patiently, rant on and on. And then when I got done, she literally looks at me and says, well, you could keep complaining about this, or you could go do something about it. And unfortunately, she didn't mean, just write another check and support another candidate. And so what happened was, Heidi and I really spent about the next 2.5 years praying about this. We talked to legislators. We talked to people in the Kansas political world. I talked to other business leaders, CEOs. And one of the questions I would ask people is, what do you think of an outsider, a business leader, as the governor of the state? And I actually had the opportunity to talk to another governor. And by the way, at the time, there were a dozen governors around the country who had never run for office at all prior to running for governor. They all came out of the business world. You had Kevin Stitt in Oklahoma, Governor Pillen in Nebraska, Doug Burgum. You had Glenn Youngkin in Virginia. You had Bill Lee in Tennessee. So you had all these governors, all came out of the business world. And one of the conversations I had, the governor told me, he said, Philip, the governor's job is unlike any other political job. He said, it's called the executive branch for a reason. It's a CEO job. And he said, we were talking about losing in 2018 and losing in 2022. And he said, I don't follow Kansas politics that closely, but it sounds to me like you took legislators and you tried to make executives out of them. And the light bulb went off. I said, that's exactly what we did. And he said, people intuitively understand it's a different skill set. It's not that legislators aren't important. They're critically important, extremely important. But that is a different skill set than running a $26 billion annual enterprise with tens of thousands of employees. And I just didn't think, with all these other governors, not to mention President Trump, the ultimate kind of outside business guy, right? Now, President Trump skipped governor, went right to president. It's kind of a Trump kind of thing to do, right? And I just didn't think it made sense to have people running what essentially is like a Fortune 200 company who have never successfully run a small business in their life. Like, how did that, to me, I said, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And so we really started, me and some other people, looking for someone else that could do it. I was kind of like, no, I'm very comfortable living in the world that I'm in. But over that 2.5-year time frame, I just started hearing from a lot of people. I mean, I met with probably 30 to 40 different people over 2.5 years. Philip, you'd be really good at this. Philip, you'd be great at this. Yes, we do need an outsider. Yes, we do need a business person. Yes, I am sick and tired of career politicians. And by the way, you'd be great at it. So ultimately, we decided to sell our companies and, obviously come into this race. So let me tell you what I don't think has been shared so far. Let me give you some stats and some data that I think you'll find interesting. if you're not familiar, and you might be familiar. We all pay, you all pay, I all pay, the highest income tax of every single state around us. Take our border states, throw in Arkansas and Iowa, technically not border states, but they're very close. These are kind of the states we compete with. And we have the highest income tax rate of every state in our region. We have the second highest corporate tax and sales tax of every state in our region. And let me just guess that I don't have to even mention what's the biggest problem I hear everywhere I go across the state, from Girard to Goodland to Wamego to Pratt to Johnson County to Sedgwick County.
Property.
There you go. I don't even have to tell people. You all know what it is. It's property tax relief. And the people of the state of Kansas have gotten no property tax relief, even though you've been promised that property tax relief. And there are things that the governor and the legislature could do. Yes, there's a lot of this is local, but there are absolutely significant things that can be done at the state level to impact property taxes. And let me tell you one thing we could do. We could stop giving property tax abatements to green energy, wind farm, foreign companies, and data centers. Because that's what we've been doing. While you all get nothing. And the stories I've heard of going across the state will break your heart. You know, a woman that came up to me said, I paid off my home, my husband passed away, I've been in my house for 36 years, I can't afford the property taxes, I have to sell my home. And that is not a crazy, unusual story of what's going on around the state of Kansas. Oh, how about this? We rank 42nd as a state in new business startups per capita. But it gets worse. We rank 48th in 5-year new business survival rate. So we don't start enough new businesses. We don't keep the businesses that we start. And people go, well, why do you think that is? And I go, well, I don't think it's all that complicated. When you're overtaxing, overspending, and over-regulating the citizens of the state of Kansas to death and the businesses, that's what you end up with. That's why CNBC last year, in their last business ranking by state, ranked our economy 48th. They gave every state a letter grade. They gave us an F. Moody's came out just a few weeks after that and said we were one of the states already in a recession. And when you go around the state of Kansas, other than a few counties, you feel that. You know that. And you hear it from people all over the state of Kansas. And I just don't think those problems are going to be solved, as well-intentioned as they may be, and I'm sure they are, by people that have been part of the problem for over 2 decades. I don't think that's the solution to the problem. I think the solution is what a lot of other states have already done. They said, we need an outsider, we need a business leader, we need somebody that has not been part of the system to come in and change the system from the outside in. That $26 billion budget I told you about, now that's the total budget, not the general fund, that's the total. But $10.5 billion of that has been added in the last 7 years, with almost no population growth in our state. From 2020 to 2026, of those same states around us, we are dead last in population growth. Over that, almost that exact time where our budget just exploded. That means all of us, same number of taxpayers, are paying that increasing spending that's going on, and it's no wonder we have the highest income tax rate, the second highest corporate tax rate, and sales tax rate, and our property taxes are totally out of control, right? As a matter of fact, if you look at our total tax burden, I just saw this, we're the 13th worst in the entire country, not just the states around us, but all the liberal states on the West Coast and in the Northeast. We are the 13th worst. California's 11th. We're only 2 worse than California from a total tax impact standpoint, in a negative way.
Phil, I got
Yeah.
you short here
Okay,
a little
yeah.
bit. I want one follow-up question with all of this. You've identified, obviously, the problem.
Yes.
And I might see it a little differently. Yeah, just you have less than like 45 seconds.
Sure.
My question is, you can't really cut taxes without the spending issue.
Absolutely.
And that is it's a $25.6 billion direct expense. What would you carve out of that, and where would you?
Well, how about this? Let's start here. We have the 3rd most state employees per capita of any state in the country. Only Alaska and South Dakota have more state employees per capita than what Kansas does. Now, and think of it on a per capita basis. Those are small states. It makes sense for them. It doesn't make much sense for us. We're completely bloated. Here's the other thing I've been talking about for months. One of the first things we'll do when we come into office is we are going to bring in an independent outside auditor, and we're going to audit every department and every agency across the state. We've already talked to the people that have done it. A couple of states have already done this. There's a firm in New Jersey that does it. There's another firm that does it. And we're going to expose it. You deserve to know where your tax dollars are being spent. So, let me finish with this. I'm not running because I need a job. You know, I sold my companies. I don't need a job to do this. I'm not running because I'm interested in a title. I've been blessed to have plenty of titles through the years. And I'm definitely not running to join the establishment. I'm running to defeat the establishment. And with your help, on August 4th, that's exactly what we are going to do. So thank you very much for having me. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll hang around and more than happy to answer questions.
All right, next up is U.S. Representative candidate Chad Young. Chad's conveniently standing right next to you.
I'm Chad Young, running for the 2nd Congressional District. I'm primarying Congressman Schmidt. There's a reason. I don't dislike him. I don't hate him. The Republican Party needs to do one thing with that. Throw that out the window. Don't hate your opponent. Work with your opponent. He might have some good ideas. You have some good ideas. The Republican Party is falling away from that. They're digging at each other. We got to stop that. We can't continue to stay strong. The Democratic Party, the Marxists, the crazy people, they're doing that. And they're sticking together with the program. We as Republicans are not sticking together in the program that was once written by our forefathers. Now I'm running for a reason. I ran a nonprofit for troubled youth in Arkansas and Kansas. My job was to save youth from going to prison and getting on drugs. So I opened a little mini school called Life Skills Programs with a boxing club. Every young man should box. I'm sorry, they should. Because a good chin check normally will straighten you out real good. Some of you fathers, older gentlemen, had a father that put it on you. I did. My son's right over there. Son, will I put it on you? Yes, sir, right? I don't have to. He serves God. He's a wonderful child. I'm going to tell you this. He's 14, so he's a big child. I'm going to tell you this. Your foods, you're being poisoned. It's proven. UCLA did a big deal on it. I've done a big deal as a boxing coach, professional boxing coach. My fighters ate perfect. You're not eating perfect, therefore you're dying. How many people are sick in here? 76%. Don't raise your hand. I already know. Because I studied with some guys in UCLA and I seen the facts. The facts are you're sick. You don't even know it. Your gubernatorial guys and ladies, 3 out of 6, is it 6 or 7 on the Republican Party? Quite a few of them. But 50% of them are carrying a disease and they don't even know it. AI is destroying your grandchildren, your children, and some of you older people's minds. My mother just lost $49,000 from AI because she thought it was somebody and she was tired of being lonely. This stuff happens every day. AI is out of control. 1/3 of your jobs are gone within 10 more years if you're lucky. Data centers, know your stuff when you come up here and speak. They are opening the gates for all water reserves in the United States. It will happen soon. By 2035, the reserves will be down 50%. By 2045, they will be gone. What's really going on in these data centers? What's really going on with AI? How many of you read your Bible? You better start reading your Bible. That's the problem. Is we're not getting leaders in with the fear of God. RFK's trying to clean up our food issues. The first time I ran, which is just the last time, Schmidt won. I ran on that. All your candies, 85% of them, I think I have a couple witnesses here. I threw candy at them last time I spoke. I said, don't eat that. He goes, why are you throwing it on my table? I said, don't eat that. So please raise your hand. I said, don't eat that. Please throw that away. They're finding massive amounts of poison in it. In 1956, a Hershey bar was a Hershey bar. It's not a Hershey bar, it's fake. Our meats are fake. Our cowboys here in Kansas that are producing real meat, they're being beat out by fake meat. We've got to put somebody in that's not a politician. I don't take lobbyists at all. I'm going to run for the next 8 years. If I get whooped this time, I'm going to run again. Why? I was an ex-fighter, an ex-boxer. I want to go 12 rounds. I'll come back and tell you how poisoned you are again. I'll come back and tell you what I ran to save kids, to get their minds right. Brain fog is a problem because gut health isn't there. What'd your daddy feed you? Good? Real food, huh? Real food. We got a problem. We've got to have somebody in Congress that is going to fight back and know what he's talking about. Don't just hear it on the... Go study it. That's all I've done all my life is study food because I had to. I had professional fighters. I was one. And I'm ready to knock them out. You need a real person in Congress to fight. I'm going to say this. There are lobbyists probably in this room. You know where you can go. I got a boxing club. I can still go 3 rounds. Please enter the ring. No, really. We need a fighter that's going to fight for our children and their children. AI is going to destroy your children. It already has. How many hours are they on their phone a day? Who raised this last generation? AI did. Parents gave up and said, go get on your phone. Not my boy. Get off your phone. Let's go work. We work on the farm. We deal with goats every day and chickens because we're real people. We drink goat's milk because it's real. We have our own eggs and our own beef. Wake up. How many people are awake?
I am.
We talked. How many people are awake? Wake up. Wake up. Don't put another politician in. I'm not Mr. Schmidt, Congressman Schmidt's enemy. Not at all. He should be your next AG in the United States and get rid of that Democrat that Trump's got in. I'm not against Trump. But I want that guy gone. And I want the AG in. Somebody that will really fight against these problems. The FBI has done us dirty. I'm sorry they have. I wish they were on our side, but they're not. The CIA has done us dirty. They were supposed to fight across seas, not against us. Our forefathers made it clear, which I'm a constitutionalist. Son, tell him, because I'm making him a constitutionalist. They made it clear when it comes to these means, it's time to wake up and replace. How many congressmen that done you dirty have you replaced? How many? It's not working. Or, how many can quote the next word? Abolish. And we're at that time because they're taking money from foreign. They're taking money from foreign lobbyists. They're taking money to do what they're told, not what you tell them to do. And they're all lying to you. Somebody said, well, what makes you any different? I wish those lobbyists would meet me in the ring. That's what makes me different. I'm a fighter. I was poor as a child. But my daddy and my daddy and my mom made me eat right. But we ate poor. I don't need that money. I guarantee you I'll go after them. They'll replace me or something worse. Who you vote for doesn't matter. Come on. How many times have you seen it? They get in and they take that lobbyist money. They get in and they take that. How many times? Raise your hands. How many times? What's going to change it? We've got to pass a bill that says no more lobbyists. Foreign or here. Domestic. Doesn't that sound right? Wait a minute. That's our problem. I didn't need a mic, by the way. I got a big mouth. I was a coach. I know how to scream at you. Here's the deal. We've got to stop lobbyists. We've got to stop AI. It's out of control. Elon Musk said it's too late. Data centers, they're going to poison us. People are talking about it all over America. My water's brown. And when they suck it dry, they get up, they leave, and guess what they do to you? They fit you with the bill. Wake up, 1776. It's in your heart. We're coming on to what date in June? What's July 4th? What is it? How many years? Are we done then? Wake up, 1776. Bring America back by voting in a non-politician and a patriot. My nickname was Samuel Adams for a reason, because they say a lot of bad things about these hands. But I'm retired. I'm not going to fight here no more. I'm going to fight here and give it all to him. And I'm going to listen to him. I'm not a fake. And I'm going to do this for the next 8 years. If I lose this one, I'm coming back to talk to your grandkids, to talk to your kids, to talk to that man right there. Help me. Now, you don't have to turn around. You know who I'm talking to. He whooped me last time. I've been whooped. I'm used to it. That's why I'm going to come back and fight. And I'm spending my own money. I sold everything I own. Didn't I, son? We have some goats and chickens. You can't have them. I got to eat right. Listen, I'm going to cut it down. I'm sorry, sir. God bless you all. If you have any questions, please.
Those found hundreds of millions in waste and fraud. How would you address that going forward as a Congress?
Put the right AG in office. Beg the president. There was a guy in here earlier, Ty Masterson. He's over there somewhere. I don't know. I can't see. Got my brains beat in a couple times. He said he's close to Trump. Put an AG in. That AG that's in, go look at his voting record. It's all Democrat. Go look at it. I did. We got to prosecute. Quit talking the talk. The files, those children files, I'm going to break it to you real quick, and I'm going to answer your question. We've got to put people in jail. Now, quit talking about it. I was one of those children, not those, but I was hurt as a child. A lot of people in here were. I was beaten, and the other thing, because there's children in here, I'm going to be quiet. But I know what that feels like. Accountability and transparency. That's the first thing. We don't get none from Washington. You don't really get much from Kansas. But Washington's where we've got to beat it first, and it'll trickle down to the states. Study to show thyself approved to God, and study what we're fighting. Know who we're fighting. AI is your next worst enemy. Got to put people in jail. Got to get the right AG in office. We got one here. We got people in Kansas that are strong patriots. Put them in office. Any other questions?
We have about a minute left. What would be your top 3 priorities as a congressman?
God first. Bring it back to all schools. Prayer back to all schools. We've heard it before, but I'm the guy that'll go do it. I'm not scared of none of them. They can't whoop me. I know that. But I also know this. Transparency would be my next. And accountability would be my third. And if we can't bring those, come 2030, when your $37 trillion in debt turns into 50, and that's no good anymore, and you owe all these other countries, and you're paying for that, by the way. You're going to pay for that. You're already paying for it. That's why taxation is so big. Last thing. BlackRock, Vanguard, they own all AI. They own all the data centers. They own your food. And they're destroying you. And they don't care about American people. Big corporation has destroyed you. We need to put limits on big corporations starting now. Hey, listen, God bless you. Give it to God today. That's the last thing. Is He needs to know that you really are begging Him to stop this. Put somebody in office today that'll whoop them. Don't just shake your head. Yes, this is our last shot. Really mean it. God bless you all.
Thank you. Next up, we have Pat Proctor from Leavenworth. And I have to interject, but Phil, I'm sorry. Before you leave, I have to tell you the story. You are not the only one who has done what you did. I was at K-State at my son's think it was freshman, whatever, introductory day where they try to get you to go to school. And I had to go to the bathroom, so I wandered in the bathroom. And I thought, these dang DEI wackos, they're all the stalls, there's no more urinals anymore. Now everybody's got a stall. And I came out just mumbling and then I realized I was in the women's bathroom. So you're not the only one, brother. All right.
At least I didn't actually go in.
I went in, I did my business. I went in all the way. Thank you.
Thank you. So my name is Pat Proctor. I serve the people of Leavenworth, Fort Leavenworth, in a little town called Kickapoo in the Kansas House. But I serve all of you as the chairman of your House Elections Committee. And I'm running to serve you as your next Secretary of State. And before we get to the question, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself and what I've been doing for you as the chair of the House Elections Committee. Politics was not my life plan. I spent 25 years in the Army. I retired in 2019, and when I was retiring, my plan was to be a professor, which I did until last month. I spent 7 years teaching at Wichita State in the Homeland Security program. Yes, I was making that drive every week. And I figured my wife would fill in the rest with our 2 restaurants. We have a restaurant in Leavenworth and a restaurant in Manhattan, a Bontai restaurant. Cooking so good I married the chef. Please check it out if you're in Leavenworth. But a very wise man once told me, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And so here I am in politics. And I didn't get in politics to be involved in elections. I got in politics to bring Leavenworth back. Because like a lot of towns, Leavenworth's dying. We're losing 300 people a year. They're taking the money and the health insurance with them. Our hospital, Cushing, closed. Our grocery stores up north have all closed. And I went to Topeka to bring that back, try to bring Leavenworth back. And I've done a lot of that. I did the Historic Kansas Act to encourage investment in historic downtowns like Leavenworth and like a lot of the small towns around Kansas I've had the opportunity to visit. I also have been doing a lot to try to keep veterans here. I've been working on a disabled veteran property tax relief. I passed a bill to get funding for a veterans home in northeast Kansas, right down the road in Topeka. I wanted it in Leavenworth, but the governor got to pick the spot, so she picked her old Senate district. Imagine that. But when you become a legislator, they ask you what committees you want to be on. And I said what anybody from Leavenworth would say. I said, I want to be on military and veterans, I want to be on corrections, because that's what we do in Leavenworth. We do the Army and we do prison. And they put me on the elections committee. I'm like, well, okay. Well, if I'm going to be on the elections committee, I better know something about elections, right? So I made an appointment with the Secretary of State's office, because the Secretary of State's the chief elections officer. I spent the entire day just going soup to nuts with his elections team through elections. Everything you ever wanted to know about elections. But the whole time I was in there, my phone was just blowing up. I was just getting call after call and text after text. I didn't want to be rude, because how often am I going to have all these experts in a room kind of feeding my head? So I kind of put my phone away and tried to ignore the buzzing best I could. But after I was all done, I walked out of, I remember this like it was yesterday, I walked out of Memorial Hall, I'm standing there on the sidewalk, the Capitol's kind of looming in front of me, I'm getting ready to take my oath in a week, and I looked down at my phone. The day that I'd been in there learning everything there was to learn about elections was January 6, 2021. So while I'd been in there learning everything there was to learn about elections, January 6th had happened. And it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. I had all these ideas about what I was going to be doing in the legislature, but probably the most important thing I was going to be doing was working on restoring confidence in our elections. And the reason I say that is in that 25 years in the Army, I had the opportunity to serve in a lot of garden spots, twice in Iraq, once in Afghanistan, a bunch of other really wonderful places I'm never going back to. And what those places all had in common is that they don't believe in the ballot box to solve their problems. They don't believe in civil processes or the rule of law to solve their problems. So the way they solve their problems is they get a gun and they shoot whoever they disagree with. And that's how they solve their problems. And I swore an oath, folks, all those years ago when I first put on the uniform, I won't tell you what year, I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution. I swore an oath to support our form of government, to support our way of life. And that oath didn't end when I took off the uniform. So if I could have some impact on solving this problem, bringing people back in the process, I was going to do it. And so after a couple of years, I come back. I'm no longer a freshman. I'm a sophomore. And they asked me, what do you want to do in leadership? I didn't hesitate. I said, I want to be the chairman of the House Elections Committee so that I can work on this problem. I'll tell you, if I have the honor of your vote to serve you as your next Secretary of State, I'm going to be doing exactly what I've been doing as the chairman of the House Elections Committee. I'm going to be focused in restoring confidence in 4 ways, and I'd love to answer any question you have about any of these, but I don't have time to go into all of them. But first is increasing transparency. Like, we're not going to take ballots for days after the election. We repealed the 3-day grace period, election day is election day. Combating non-citizen voting. I know everybody's talking about the amendment in August. I passed an amendment that's going to be on the ballot in November that says only U.S. citizens can vote in the state of Kansas. I think you should vote yes. I think it's a good idea. Another thing that I've been working on is combating ballot harvesting and combating these groups. I hate when I call this, so I call this all the time. The Axis of Ballot Harvesting, the ACLU, League of Women Voters, Loud Light. They're trying to keep ballot harvesting legal so that the only ballots that get counted are the ones that they're harvesting. And it's happening in Leavenworth, in my district. I'm the first Republican reelected since 1994 in that district. That it happens every cycle, harvesting ballots. And we've done a lot, like signature verification. You can only turn in so many ballots that aren't your own to solve that. And I'd love to talk more about it. The last thing is cleaning up our voter rolls. We had a hearing last year that I asked for, found out there are more people 65 years or older on our voter rolls than there are humans 65 years or older living in the state of Kansas. And it's not that our clerks are bad people, it's that they can only do what we authorize them to do in law. So we've done a lot. We passed the Save Kansas Act this year to do a lot to clean up our voter rolls. I'd love to talk to you about it if you have any questions. But I'll just wrap up with this. We're getting ready to celebrate our 250th birthday here in a couple weeks. And I think I'm a historian, so I'm sorry, you're getting a history lesson here for a few minutes. You know, we sort of take for granted what we have here in this country. Because a lot of us grew up here, you know, a lot of us were born here. But there has never been a nation in the history of the planet Earth like the United States. Ever. For all of human history before 1776, being a part of this nation meant that you spoke the same language, you had the same religion, you were the same ethnicity. And if you spoke different, prayed different, looked different, you're from that other nation over there on the other side of the river. We were probably at war with you because we didn't like how you talked, looked, or prayed, right? This is the first nation in the history of the planet ever where you're not a part of the nation because of how you talk, pray, or look. You're part of the nation because you swear to certain principles. And we sorted a couple of them here when we started this meeting. That we're all created equal. That we're all equal under the law. That we're all endowed by our Creator, not government, by our Creator, with the inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But we're all so different. And that's why it's never worked before. They've never before 1776 has any nation been able to come together just around an idea. The reason it's worked in America is because our founders discovered the secret sauce. Back in 1776, and sort of perfected in 1789, they got together and they created a social contract. They said, okay guys, every couple of years, we're going to get together and we're going to decide who's in charge. And you might not like it, a lot of times you don't like it, but you might not like it, but that's who's in charge for the next 2 years, and if you don't like it, you can come back and you can fire them and you can hire somebody else. If we lose faith in that, folks, we're not going to have a 500th birthday. We ain't going to have a 300th birthday. We're going to fly apart. And frankly, you're starting to see it. You know, that kid that shot Charlie Kirk, that guy that armed himself to teeth and bum rushed the president the other day, the people pulling down statues, burning down federal buildings, attacking our police because they don't agree with the laws they're passing. They don't believe in the ballot box anymore. They've decided that the only way to settle their differences is with violence. I would tell you that if we're going to have that 500th birthday, right now, we need somebody across the country in all of our states. We need folks in charge of our elections who really understand elections and election law, but more importantly, are focused on restoring confidence. Not dismissing anybody who has a concern as a tinfoil hat wearing crazy, but also not sowing suspicion to further their political career. Somebody who's focused on listening to people's concerns, addressing their concerns, and bringing them back into the process. That's what I've been doing for 4 years as your House Chair of Elections Committee. I'd be honored to do that as your next Secretary of State. Thank you.
I'm going to ask you an easy question.
Oh, that was simple.
You're running on a
I do not have a primary, but the Democrats, the Democrats, this is an open seat this year because Secretary of State Schwab's run for governor, and George Soros and the foreign billionaires, they are all in on my Democrat opponent, so it is not going to be a cakewalk. So I need your help.
I don't know if you were here when this started.
I've been here the whole time.
Okay, all right. I work for an organization who cleans up voter rolls. That's one of our primary tasks, and we've cleaned up over 6 million names off voter rolls. Yes, we've seen exactly what you're talking about. I'm going to ask you a really simple one first. Did you ever wear a steel pot?
I came in at the beginning of the Kevlar era,
okay.
So I'm not that quite that old. Not quite that old.
Okay. I wore a steel pot.
Okay. Now in ceremonies, I wore 1 or 2. I wore 1 or 2 for the ceremony.
Not for very long.
Yeah.
Because of my work, I had a question that's really, really deep down the weeds.
Yeah.
I wish I could explain it as
those are my
well as
favorite.
this guy. I met with a guy from Wichita. He's a retired aeronautical engineer. So the guy's job was to make sure airplanes don't fall out of the sky. And in that line of work, aircraft are very, very redundant. There are backups for backups for backups. He's retired, so what do retired engineers do? They come up with ways to solve problems. That's what engineers do. And he had this pet project, and unfortunately in my position, I wasn't really in a spot to help him as much as I would like to. But he came up with a ballot process that was literally bulletproof. It had a scan code that you got on your ballot. You could go check and see not only if your ballot was counted, but who you actually voted for. And if you think about it, we've all seen, and I don't know if you all are this down in the weeds, but I personally think machines can change votes. There are algorithms that you can vote them, and I think that kind of thing has happened. And this was a way to basically be able, the voter could go in and say, oh look, I voted for Pat Proctor, and it says right here, and he's the only person on the planet that can access that information because he has the code.
Yeah.
Would you be willing, as a Secretary of State, to look into something like that and maybe have Kansas be a leader in that?
So we've already started to head that way. I just ran out of time as the chair of the House Elections Committee, and I'm going to continue this work as Secretary of State if I have the honor to serve you. What we were doing is, so every time you put your ballot in one of those vote count machines, it scans an image. And so there is an image of your ballot. And in some states, they put online every single ballot. So you could theoretically, if you had the time, do your own count, your own recount of the election to make sure that the number you get matches the machines. In order to do it, once we have that system, we've got every ballot electronically at the state level. Then we could go the next step where we put on the scan code or the QR code or whatever. But in order to do that, we have to change the law. Because right now it says that no ballot, that you have to create the ballot in such a way it couldn't possibly be traced back to the voter. Right. And so we would have to figure that out. But I am open to that because I think that you should be able to. Right now we've got a website. It's called Voter View, and you can see did I vote? And apparently sometimes that ain't getting updated. We need to fix that too. But I think you should be able to put in whatever unique identifiers on your ballot and see how did I vote, so that we know, so you know it got counted the right way.
We've got about a minute left.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? Any other questions? I guess mine would be. Go ahead. Right here.
Yeah, I know on voting machines. I know Jackson County used Dominion voting machines.
Yeah.
And county commissioners say there's no fraud, they're foolproof 100% to the Dominion voting machine. And that's been proven wrong and wrong and wrong. They've had experts on the floor of the Congress testifying that every Dominion voting machine can be hacked, and the county commissioners say, it doesn't go online or anything like that. When they tabulate their votes, they're going online. They can change that whole thing, and it's all predetermined. And I can't convince any commissioner in Jackson County about how nefarious these Dominion voting machines are. And that's how we're losing elections. That's how we're losing the governorship to Democrats, is because of Dominion and the fraud that was perpetuated down in Venezuela by and they've made these machines almost impossible to reveal the fraud. You know, they've got fireproof and backup systems to make it impossible to.
Okay.
Oh.
Hand count. Why can't we hand
Okay,
count?
I'll let you close. Okay, so, thank you. So, if I were a politician, I'd stand up here, I'd say, I'm gonna get rid of all of the voting machines. I'm just gonna tell you, there are not the votes in the legislature to do it. So I'd be lying to you, and I just ain't gonna lie to you. Well, a couple of things I am gonna say. First of all, there is no law in the state of Kansas that says your county has to use a voting machine. There is not a law on the books that says your county must. So if you don't want your county counting machines, using counting machines, elect a clerk that will do a hand count, and you can do a hand count in your county. That's the first thing I'd say. The second thing I'd say is President Trump has a great executive order on election integrity that he wrote last year that has a lot of good stuff in it about what we do with voting machines. And a lot of what he did in that, we've already done, like banning repealing the 3-day grace period, hand ballot for a paper ballot for every single vote, paper audits of every election. But one of the things that he has tasked the Election Assistance Commission with doing is on the standards for those touch screens. No QR codes, no barcodes. So whatever the machine is looking at is exactly what the human's looking at when they verify the ballot and then when they do the audit later. Now, I'm on the board of advisors for the Election Assistance Commission. Every year I go there, I've been screaming at the top of my lungs and standing on desks. And I can report that in April of this year, we convinced the Election Assistance Commission to do what President Trump told them to do on election machines. So it's going to happen this year. So. B-Boys, talk elections, I'm over here.
All right, next up, Dan Hawkins. And Dan, you're running unopposed in the primary.
That is absolutely correct. I'm Dan Hawkins. I am currently your Speaker of the House here in Kansas. Have been for the last 4 years. I actually started 2013 was my first year. I grew up in southern Harper County on a dairy farm. Dairy farm sophomore, did that until I went to college and never went back, although many times I wish I would have because I certainly enjoyed the farm. But you know, in the legislature, we have opportunities to do a lot of different things. I never really dreamed that I would be the majority leader of the House or the Speaker of the House. But once I became the Speaker of the House, there was one thing I really kind of started to have my eyes on, and that is the Insurance Commissioner's office. And that pretty much glazes over everybody's eyes here. It's a very nondescript place. But I've been in the insurance business for 31 years now. And I've done a lot of things in the insurance business. And over the years, as I've been in that business, I've often said, why do they do the things that they do? Why are they doing some of these things? For instance, there are policies out there that we can't get in Kansas. They might try to bring them, but this insurance department won't let them. As I have been actually campaigning for the last year across the state of Kansas, one of the things I do is I drop in on insurance agents on virtually every town that I go to. And just find out what they're saying. And most of the time they'll say, why can't we get more companies here in Kansas? And I've said the same thing. Why can't we get more companies here in Kansas? Well, one of the problems we've had over the last 50 years, do you realize over the last 50 years, we have only had one insurance commissioner that actually came from the insurance industry. One only. Can you imagine having an AG that's not an attorney? and has no legal knowledge whatsoever? Can you imagine having a Secretary of State without a Pat Proctor? Somebody that has studied election issues for the last 8 years and understands it better than anybody. Can you imagine having a treasurer who has no financial knowledge? And we have one of the best treasurers you can get. Stephen Johnson was made for that job. He's a geek when it comes to finances. He loves it. Well, I would say I'm not a geek, but when it comes to insurance, I probably am a geek. I look at it the same thing, same way. I want to study. I want to learn. It's a business that you can learn every day of your career. In 31 years, I have had the opportunity to do a lot of things. But to have an insurance commissioner who has no insurance experience, then what do they do? Well, they'll tell you we're a regulator. That's all we do is regulate. And that is correct. They do regulate. The insurance commissioner's job is to administer the laws, the insurance laws of the state of Kansas, and enforce those laws. So they are a regulator. But they also have, I would call a bully pulpit, that they can do much more. They can do a ton of things more. How many people have a home? And how many people love your insurance premiums on that home?
Oh, yeah.
Now, you realize today, owning a home, the two largest expenses is property tax and your insurance premium. Those are the two largest expenses you have in owning a home. And don't pay your income tax and see how long you own that. Well, don't pay your insurance premium and have a fire, find out what you have. I do know some people who have had that happen, and it's not a good place to be. It's truly a place where you want, because it's such a complex industry, it's truly a position that you want people there who understand the business. And I will tell you, my opponent, like he said, I'm running unopposed in the primary, but I do have a general election opponent. Her name is Dinah Sykes. She's the minority leader in the Kansas Senate, and Dinah has never held a job. Matter of fact, on her resume it says the only thing she's ever done is part-time personal chef. So come November, you'll have a choice. You can pick somebody who's actually been in the business for 31 years, or you can pick a part-time personal chef. Well, if you pick a part-time personal chef, all you will get is a regulator, somebody that's just going to administer that office and regulate the industry. But I will submit to you that they can do so much more. You know, in Kansas, in 2010, and actually across the nation, in 2010 it was a bad year. Obamacare hit us, the ACA. And who believes Obamacare was a great thing for the United States? It's been horrible. You realize, so in my business, in the insurance business, I started out as a life-only agent. Did that for a couple of years. Then I got a property and casualty agency, had that for about 4 years. And during that time, I really started getting into the employee benefits arena. And by 2010, I had done away with my property and casualty business and really was solely working on nothing but employee benefits. But in 2010, when the ACA came into the health insurance arena, everything changed for us. I mean, everything. Before the ACA, in this part of Kansas, and when I say Kansas, actually I mean the whole state except for the northeast two counties, Johnson and Wyandotte, they're an anomaly. But the rest of the state, we can do business with 50 or 60 carriers. Do you know how many carriers we can do business with today? 2. 2 fully insured carriers, that's it, 2. Blue Cross and Blue Shield and United Healthcare, that's it. There are no other fully insured carriers for the group benefits market. And where do most people get their benefits? Through their work, through their employment. There's about, I don't know. Can't remember what the last one I saw nationwide. But here in Kansas, there's probably somewhere around 80 or 100,000 people on the ACA. But everybody else gets their benefits through their work or Medicare. Only having 2 carriers is a travesty. That's not a market. Our market always has to be based on competition, because competition makes us better. And so I believe the one thing that the insurance commissioner should be doing is number one, figuring out why companies don't want to come to Kansas. I can tell you some of the reasons why they won't come. During this last year, as I've traveled the state, and actually for several years, I'm always talking to carriers. But here just recently, about 6 months ago, I was talking to a carrier, and I said, why don't you want to come to Kansas? You're a health insurance carrier, why not come? And he said, you ever done business with the state of Kansas and the insurance department? I said, no. I said, I've been an agent, not been a carrier. He said, they are one of the most difficult insurance departments in the nation. He said, I will put Kansas and Illinois side by side on the difficulty in doing business in Kansas. And I said, well, that's not. But I don't want to ever be compared to Illinois. That's the worst comparison you can make. The only thing that'd be worse would be California or New York. But that's the way they look at it. We are a difficult state. Why are we difficult? I can't actually answer that. None of us can until we get there and really dive into their system. But I believe from my experience, it really results from one thing, and that is a system of bureaucracy that has just done it the same way for the last 50 years. And they build up rules and regulations, one on top of each other, to the point that they are a very difficult department to deal with. And so, how do we get more companies in? Let's figure out what the problems are there, get some of those rules and regulations dialed back, and I guarantee you, Randy and I served for quite a while together. Our rules and regulations are stifling, aren't they, Randy? Absolutely stifling. And that's not just the insurance department, that's all of government. We call it the fourth branch of government, the bureaucracy. So we have to figure that out and then get carriers to come in and to be a part of a robust insurance marketplace. And if we can do that and we can introduce more competition, prices will come down. So when I started clear back into the benefits arena, actually it was about 2002, I could sell a health insurance policy, let's say up in Kansas City for $300 for an individual, about 30, 35 years old. You know what it costs today? For just one person, it's about $700 for a family. It used to be about $900. Now it's over $2,000. Over $2,000. Sometimes as much as $2,500. There is nothing worse than what we have seen over the last several years when it comes to insurance premiums and how they went up. And we've got to change it. And you can only change it really by having somebody that will go in, that actually has an understanding of insurance, and will go in and figure the system out and then get more competition in here. So that's my job. That's my job that I am looking forward to, is to make that happen. November 3rd certainly is when my race is coming up. Remember, you've got a choice. You can have a guy with experience, or you can have a part-time personal chef. It's up to you all to decide what you want. I think the choice is pretty simple, though. With that, thank you very much.
I can't not ask a question.
Sure. I figured you
talking to an old agent here.
Yeah.
I remember years ago when our illustrious governor, Kathleen Sebelius, my errors and omissions insurance doubled. And it was because of a man, this is a great example of how the bureaucracy drives things. And you have to, a little bit of background is important here. Her husband was a trial lawyer. Trial lawyers sue people, right? Errors and omissions insurance is what brokers use to defend against being sued. She said, you're going to have a $2 million limit now instead of the old $500,000 limit. It was a payoff to all the trial lawyers, so now they had a new pot of money, and it ended up costing the agent, right? And that's exactly the way a lot of health insurance works, other types of insurance. So I guess my question is all that, what would you do to repeal or scale some of that back?
So $1 million is actually low now.
Right.
Now it's $3 million.
Yeah.
So it went up. So just to bring another point.
That was 30 years ago.
Yeah. I've been there 31 years. Just to bring a point home, my opponent is supported by Senator Kathleen Sebelius. So, you know, there again, our system over these last several years has been run by non-insurance people. And so they don't see a problem with that. I'll give you you have to push back and you have to do everything you can to roll these things back. There isn't a single year in the legislature that we do not have somebody bring a mandate to our statutes mandating certain coverages and insurance. And I fought every single mandate that's come through. Why? Because they don't think about it. They say, well, we're just going to make the insurance company pay for it. Insurance companies don't pay for anything. You do. You do. Claims goes to the insurance company, but it's all figured together, and you pay that bill. So every time we add another coverage, it just increases your insurance cost. And we have to roll that back. We have to continue to stop these mandates from coming down our way. And I've always looked at it, and my clients have always been my most important people in my life, not the insurance carriers. Insurance carriers are not lily white. None of them are lily white. They're there to make a profit. Your insurance agents, year in and year out, are there to help you and make sure that you get what you need.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Okay, next up, we're skipping a little bit forward, but we're going to have Francis and Robert Thomas, not together. We're not going to make a debate or anything, right? And you can explain what happened, but this is a district split, right? So you're, or am I making that up?
Making what?
We're both filed and we're running for the 61st district.
Okay. And is that a district that was consolidated or no?
No.
Okay, all right. Then I'm dreaming then. But come on up, Francis. Oh, yeah. This is not a micro, it's just for the...
Okay.
Yeah, so speak loudly. Yeah, it'll pick it up for that. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you for all those putting the event together. Well, it's a lot of work. I've done quite a few events. Been on the Central Committee for the Republican Party in Potawatomi County for about a decade now. And certainly for many years, even when I was pretty young, my dad would take me to parades and we'd hand out pamphlets for conservative candidates or against liberal candidates. So from a very young age, I've been involved in politics and certainly fighting for the conservative cause. My name is Francis Awerkamp. I live in St. Mary's. I'm the state rep for the 61st District, and I just finished my 10th year in Topeka. So I have a 10-year voting record to stand on, and I'm going to go over what I've done over those 10 years and show you the consistency. And if I am reelected, I'm going to go back and keep doing the same stuff with more experience. Okay? So, real quick about me, I have my wife Shannon and I, we have 7 beautiful, wonderful, healthy children. And my day job, I work at a factory, a family business in Bellevue, the Onyx Collection. I'm one of the owners, and we have about 600 employees. I grew up working through the business. I say, when did I start? I started when I could push a broom back in the 80s. So I've been working through the family business now. Certainly been very blessed to see that business grow and be a part of it. Real quick before I get into some of the issues in Kansas, I want to hit on a couple things real briefly. One is what several people have mentioned before. Hopefully there's no doubt in the mind on the importance of the judicial reform constitutional amendment. There are some vote yes signs by the door that I brought with me. It's an effort we're putting so much work into. People have been working for this for decades. It's so important because what the problem is right now is the courts have taken over the legal system. It's called judicial activism. And it neuters the entire process. It's really bad. We need to get a better system. Kansas is the only state with a completely bar-controlled nominating committee that doesn't give any options down the process. It's the worst system in the United States. We need a better system. This will give us that opportunity. So important. Next point, we've just gone through our 8th year with a Democrat governor. Okay? There is no such thing as a perfect bill. Right? We have to craft something that can pass. And we work very hard to do that. And especially with a Democrat governor, not only do we have to pass something that'll craft a bill that'll pass, we have to generally, if it's a good bill, we have to find a way to get
supermajority to override her vetoes. She is the most overridden governor in Kansas history. I think it's about 110 vetoes that the legislature has overridden her on. So we've worked extremely hard to pass, I believe, excellent legislation, even in hard times with a Democrat governor. So it's a lot of work behind the scenes. Just how do we craft these bills? They may not be ideal. They may not be what I want or you want, but they're the way to get something successful through the process. So the legislature's been not perfect, but we've had to work with a Democrat governor, so we've got a tremendous amount done. So let's walk through some of the top issues. The first thing, we think about, if we lose our morality, what Ben Franklin said, right? He said, our system of government is made for a moral people. Okay? Right now, we are slaughtering children. The abortion issue is very important. We cannot continue as a country, as a state, if we are killing our next generation. It's a huge issue. We have to keep fighting that. Really, that's what got me into politics. That's what got my dad into politics back in the 60s. Okay, we've been fighting that, and we will never, ever stop. And that's a big part of this judicial reform vote. Second one is the Second Amendment. That's another part of running for office. Kansas is now, I would argue, maybe the top pro-Second Amendment state in the country. We had to fight really hard for that several years, overriding vetoes, but we finally got the bill passed that basically made us one of the best states. Okay, I've got an NRA A+ rating. Okay? We worked very hard on that. We believe it. The other thing that we've seen is at the state level, right, we have a supermajority, yes, of Republicans, but at local levels, some of these cities or even counties have very left-leaning governments. And so what we see is in some of these cities and counties, these left-leaning governments are making laws which take away people's rights. So in the legislature, we're constantly looking at what do we need to do to pass laws that say cities cannot instate ordinances or whatever the city codes that take away individuals' rights. The other thing is with agencies, even the government agencies. What are they doing that are taking away your rights? So several things that we've passed over the years. And well, how do we look at government? Government's there to protect your rights. So we've passed a lot of bills that restrict the local units of government from being restrictive on you and taking away your constitutional rights. And also looking at the agencies and trying to say, what are the agencies doing that are taking away your rights, and how do we reel back their abilities so they cannot be overburdensome? There's a lot of examples of that. But I say that because who am I? Do you know me? Do you know how I vote? I mean, you can look at my record, but it's more important to say, how do I look at my job? How do I look at my responsibility as a state representative? So one of the things that's extremely important is, how do I protect your rights in Topeka? The other big one is, we have a government, but can we help government? Can we help government work in a more honest fashion? A more open, clear, honest fashion? When I got elected, there was a process to our budget that was very strange to me. The governor proposed the budget, and then the legislature had to fight uphill to change that budget, and it ended up being a political tennis match. A lot of stuff just didn't make sense because it was all about headlines in the newspapers. So a few years ago, after a lot of effort from the legislature, we changed the process to make the budget. The legislature now comes in a little bit early, a couple months early, and they start working on a legislative or budget. We start the session, immediately we're introducing the legislator's budget. The governor introduces her budget, and we take it under consideration. But now we're starting from a much better platform. The budget is not perfect, but it's much better than what it would have been if we kept with the old system that they've been doing since the 1950s. So we changed our budget process to really make it a legislative controlled budget as opposed to a governor controlled budget. And that, I believe, has saved many tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars over the past few years. It's an improvement. It's not perfect, but it's an improvement to the process. The other one is welfare reform. We think of all the government programs and all the fraud out there. If you watch headlines, you see the fraud in Minnesota, all that good stuff. 4 years ago, the speaker asked me to be chair of the Welfare Reform Committee. Okay, I'm not a welfare reform. Like, wow, what do I do with welfare reform? So it took a lot of effort to get into that whole system, understand it, understand where the fraud is, and we ended up very quickly starting to pass bills to clean up our welfare systems. We know it was a good bill because I had to pass them twice. The governor vetoed them all. So we ended up having to override her veto multiple times. Some of the bills that we passed, some of the legislation actually got worked into one big beautiful bill in the welfare reforms which were in that bill, which were very good. And what we're doing is we're basically saying, hey, you can't abuse the system. If somebody's on welfare and they're an able-bodied adult, you can't just stay on welfare. You actually have to go get a job. You've got to do some sort of employment training. You've got to do something. And if you don't do it, you're off welfare. Unemployment. Somebody mentioned that before. Unemployment was awful in Kansas. After the COVID, all that fraud, we went through the entire unemployment statute and just totally revamped it to take away the abuse. Now somebody, if they're on unemployment, after 3 weeks, they have to go out and prove that they're looking for a job. And if they receive an opportunity, they have to take it. So now we've made it pretty much as hard to go be on unemployment than it would be to have a job. So what's happened as a result? Our unemployment has dropped, or the unemployment payouts have dropped tremendously. And from a business perspective, the taxes for unemployment have plummeted to the point where we had to come up with a new rate of 0%. There's a lot of businesses out there who are paying 0% in unemployment taxes because our unemployment is so low. And if you take a look at the fraud, we put that 2-point verification system. We had to beat them up for about a month during that time to put in a 2-point verification system. And immediately overnight, the fraud dropped. We were spending millions of dollars. It was awful. We worked insanely hard. But as a result, Kansas, I would say, has the best unemployment laws in the state, or in the country. And that is reflective of our unemployment tax rates, which are extremely low. Okay. A lot of stuff behind the scenes. What does that save businesses? My guess, and I think I can back it up, it's about $140 million a year. Okay. And if we add to that, well, we took away the sales tax on food. We took away the income tax on Social Security. We reduced our income tax rates. We added to the deductible for dependents. We did many, many different things on the tax front. We took away the 1.5 mils on property taxes. We increased the exemption for residential property taxes on the state's 20 mils from about 40,000, put it up to 75,000. So all of these things have been a reduction of taxes over the years to the point of about, my math, about $1.4 billion a year of tax reductions that the legislature has put in place over the years. Been a lot of these little efforts, right? These are tremendously difficult things to get passed. Some of these we had to work on for years to get the vote to finally pass them through the whole process. But tremendous tax relief. If you add it all up and put it all together, that's all real dollars that we have given back to the taxpayers. It's very important. The other one is, and I'll touch on this maybe in the question and answer. I do want to get into corporate welfare. How are we doing on time?
About a minute.
About a minute. Okay. I'll finish with one of the other things. We always look forward to the future. Okay. I have 7 children. The future is very important to me. Right? What do we need to do to have a strong future? It's very simple. We have to start with honoring God, honoring the laws of God. Okay, one nation under God, in God we trust. What does that actually mean? We have to respect His laws. Okay, on life, on marriage, the family, extremely important. And the legislature has fought extremely hard against the LGBTQ agenda, that indoctrination of children, the horrific things that are going on in society right now. We fight against it even though we take a lot of heat. It's a heat I'd love to take. We fight every single day. Why? Because we love God first. And His laws come first. Okay? We will all stand before God. That vote is the most important vote we'll ever have. Right? When we stand before God and He tells us how we did. That's first and foremost. We keep that in mind. We keep supporting that bedrock of society, which is the family. And if we keep going down this path, keep cleaning up government, I think we do have a great future. That's what I put my effort into. I appreciate the opportunity these past 10 years. And if you give me another 2, I'll keep trying. Thank you very much.
Second question. Okay. So you talked about the cities not obeying maybe the state laws and what have you, and you'd like to see more of that. Just a heads up, Brown County, the courthouse, they still disarm you at the door while they let employees go around you. By violating your Second Amendment right. That's the first thing. The second thing, and this goes for about every incumbent in here. I've got the list. If you want to come over and take a look at it. SB 98, all of you voted for it. For those that don't know what that is, you know the big bad data centers that everybody has been so down on today? That's what they voted for tax exemptions on new data centers in the state of Kansas. Every single one of them.
So I think it's an important point. Okay, because that process, I think it's important. No, I understand, sir, and I get it. And it's a challenge in Topeka because you have the bill headlines and then the bill nuances. Since the 1960s, there's been a process that businesses have used called the IRB process. And they use that to get sales tax exemptions. Data centers were already coming to Kansas. They were already getting the IRBs. They were already getting sales tax exemptions. They wanted a better process, and they wanted a lot more to it. That bill died multiple times in various forms, okay? When that bill finally was passed, it allowed for the sales tax exemptions, same as the IRBs. But the legislature put in several restrictions on them and protections. One is, it clearly stated those data centers cannot get the economic development rate for electricity. So they have to pay full rate for electricity. Okay. We also said they have to make sure they're doing several things as far as water preservation. And they have to go through the fusion center as far as national security stuff. There's a lot of restrictions we put in place.
But we can't speak out of both sides of our mouth and say how bad they are, but give them tax exemption.
Right. I'm not.
Now you didn't.
True.
I didn't hear that from what you said. This is the first time I've been able to be called on to bring this up.
Yes.
With any of our speakers today. I just want everybody in the crowd to know that
And I'll walk you through a little bit.
there's two sides to every mouth.
Absolutely, there are. And that was a challenging vote because I can go through my history and I challenge you to find another legislator who fights corporate welfare more than I do. I speak up in committee and caucus on the House floor. I fight it like crazy. And I have the background and I've got the votes to prove it. Whether it's the Chiefs deal, the Panasonic deal, the Star Bonds, all that stuff. Every one of them, I fight. Okay? This one was very hard because when I saw the bill originally, I'm like, this is trash. But as we started to realize, wow, they're already getting it. So, I hate this. But at the same time, we're adding restrictions on them so they can't get the good electricity rates.
One-page bill.
Yep.
One subject, one-page bill, nothing tied to it. The system is broken that you're trying to fix things with. Thinking we're going to vote our way out of a system that got us to right where we're at today isn't going to give us anything except for the exact same 4 years of what we've had for the past 40. If I'm wrong, tell me.
Hey, absolutely. I mean, to look at the legislation that goes through, I know what I'd like, but there's a lot of other people there, so we're trying to do the best to where we have a net positive for the people of Kansas. That one was a difficult vote.
Either fix or you don't.
True.
And I know you're only one man.
Yeah.
There's got to be.
But with the restrictions that were part of that bill, yep, we're trying. And we have stopped a lot of them. You know, these never hit the headlines. But in committee, we kill a lot of these things. Why? Because we bust our tails, we call them out. There is a lot of effort going in to end this corporate welfare. And if you take a look at the hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, that's how we can reduce our taxes. And Anyway, you hit a good button on me because that's what I've been very passionate about all 10 years and I fought. Senate Bill 98, I get it. People are upset about it, but you got to understand, they were already getting these sales tax exemptions. This bill gave them a different process, but it added a bunch of restrictions. Is it a perfect bill? No. No, it's not a perfect bill, but when we weigh it, it was very difficult because I don't like any of them. But is it a net positive for the people of Kansas? It was a hard one. Because of the restrictions, I held my nose and said, oh, it's probably a better thing for Kansans. And there's other things with regards to the IRBs. This actually, I think, gives the county commissions or cities more control of the process because the IRBs get into tax abatements on property and all sorts of other things. This process, I would argue, and we're seeing it in Pot County now, it's going to put the county commission more in the driver's seat to defend the people than the previous process. But a lot of effort to it. It is a very difficult topic. There's a lot of nuances to it. Yeah.
Thank you, Frank.
I appreciate the dialogue back and forth. That's good. And I'll say this personally. I had that conversation with Francis in the back, and it's why I don't run for politics because they don't have an easy job. All right, next up is Robert Thomas. Yeah, welcome. And then,
All right, thank you guys. You guys are
Definitely the hardcore group that's still here. Looks like we've lost about half the crowd as soon as the governor candidates left. About 46 years ago, President Reagan stood in front of the American people and asked one simple question. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? He stated that, of course, to ask the people to challenge themselves to really think about, has the incumbent made your life better or worse? Francis is a great guy. If he stays in office, he's going to do a great job. He's got an amazing family. He's got amazing faith. I have nothing against any of that, okay? But he's been there for 10 years, and I had to ask myself a while back, kind of like Mr. Sarnecki was talking about when he was complaining about politics with his wife, and the wife said, hey, put up or shut up, right? And so I asked myself, hey, Francis has been there for 10 years. Are we better off than we were 10 years ago? And so I had to run through some of the numbers and find out the facts about that. It wasn't just a simple, do I feel better? Am I personally better? Personally, I'm doing much better. I'm in a much better financial place. My wife just graduated college. Now we've got 2 incomes coming in, things like that. But as Kansas, are we better off than we were 10 years ago? I can tell you a couple of different facts. One, our government's grown by 60% in the last 10 years. That's twice the rate of everything else. Sorry, inflation. Twice the rate of inflation, okay? We can't continue to do that, okay? Francis talked about abortions. I know he's 100% pro-life, okay? So am I, right? In addition to my own 4 children, I've been a foster parent to 9 kids. I've adopted 2 of them, okay? I'm pro-life all the time, throughout my life, okay? So I know this is not on Francis's head, but again, are we better off than we were 10 years ago? No, we have 3 times as many abortions in Kansas today as we did 10 years ago. Am I going to be able to fix that by myself? No, I'm not going to stand up here and give you some I can fix this thing. Even our governor candidates can't solely by themselves say we can fix that. Best way we're going to fix it, wherever the signs are at, that vote yes over there, that's going to be our number 1 thing we can do. Are there other things we can do? Sure. Back in 2022, right, we had an amendment. It was the all or nothing kind of amendment as far as pro-life and things like that. We lost. What did we do for the next 4 years? We ran around with our tail between our legs, scared to get back out there and do anything. Masterson talked about this specific issue. 80% of Kansans support an amendment that bans 2nd, 3rd term abortions. Okay? Why have we not gotten back out there and get that taken care of? We had over 10,000 late term abortions in Kansas since that 2022 amendment failed. Why have we not gotten back out there and done anything? Why are we being lazy about this? Right? Fiscal conservative. Well, let me get some of these things. All right, there were some questions asked earlier, and gentlemen left already, as far as the tribal land issues and property taxes, things like that. The way you're going to know things like that is by being active in the community and listening. So I had an opportunity, went to the meeting
at the Evangel Church in Holton back in March something that Matt and Rowdy put on, and that same question came up. So I had an opportunity to do some research on it. Found out that there are grants through the Bureau of Indian Affairs, basically that compensates the county for that growth within the tribal lands and stuff like that. However, there's a process to fill out the paperwork and all that. And so we've had problems between Jackson County commissioners, the tribe, and the state and stuff like that as far as getting that taken care of. So most of those wouldn't be issues that I can fix at my level, aside from trying to apply some pressure to those individuals. Second Amendments came up. I spent, as soon as I graduated high school, joined the Marine Corps, spent 8 years in the United States Marine Corps. I worked both in artillery and then also as a marksmanship instructor. So I'm very pro-gun, member of the NRA, Kansas Rifle Association, concealed carry, open carry at certain times. So definitely pro-Second Amendment. Property taxes. Most everybody says that's kind of their number one issue. As far as property taxes, we've got to deal with our school system because this is affecting both that number I talked about our state increasing its budget by 60%, but also most of you, again, in that last 10 years, is your life better in the last 10 years? Chances are your property taxes are darn near double in the last 10 years. If you look at your property tax statement, about half of that, depending on where you live, is going to go to schools. The other 50% is divided up between your county, your sheriff's department, things like that. So we've got to get our school situation under control. My plan, and of course it would take 125 representatives and our 40 senators to work together on this, is to move some of our school funding, like some other states do, more over onto the state side so that we're paying, it's collected by the state, dispersed out per kid and stuff like that, right? A couple years ago, our state passed a law where kids can basically go to any school district. You don't have to just live within certain bounds to go to that school. You can send them to whatever school you want to. Right now, there's some schools that are overcrowded. Sorry, I have to put this down. Myself, I work at Rock Creek High School, and so our school's been in an expanding area, so we've not been able to take on our state students. One of the challenges, though, with that law is they didn't change how the funding happened. So you got your school district, but then you got your students coming from another area, and then you got stragglers from all over and stuff like that. And so the funding doesn't follow the students and stuff like that. So we've got to fix that so we can take that off of our property taxes, collected at the state level through sales tax or something like that, and then each kid gets their certain amount of money. Okay? In Kansas, we spend about 20 grand a year per student. We're one of the most expensive states in the entire country as far as K through 12 education. And yet, based on the latest status or statistics I saw, we're ranked 40th in the country as far as our testing scores. So we're one of the most expensive, but the least performing. So we got to address that situation. I definitely want to keep a lot of the control at the school level, so I'm not saying let's give all the state the money and stuff like that and power and things like that. And so that's a tightrope you kind of have to walk, because sometimes when the state gets money, then they start dictating how you get to use it and stuff like that, which creates more bureaucracy. So let's see, a couple others, then I'll turn it over to you guys. Oh, just different jobs as far as the being a House rep. Different things I'd expect you guys to be able to grade me on in a couple of years. As far as the job, it's not just that vote record. That's one part of the job, right? First one is getting out there and just listening to the community, getting to know people, find out what the issues are. Things like the issues going on with the tribe and stuff like that. Of course, the vote record is super important. What kind of legislation have you created during your time in office? Things like that. So again, if you want to go online and check my opponent's record and stuff like that, what legislation has he created, not just voted on in the last 10 years? Another job of it is to get out and educate. So again, being out in the community, right? I've had the opportunity to go to all the Potawatomi County zoning board meetings as far as these data centers and stuff like that, and a lot of other meetings so that I can educate myself and then turn around and work with my constituents and educate them. And then advocating, right? There are certain things, and some of the other people mentioned,
I'm not at the federal level, this is just a state job, but still we would have a certain degree of access to some of our federal legislatures that they may not be quite as inclined to maybe answer your phone call or return your calls and stuff like that. So as a legislator at state level, I'd maybe have a little bit more access to certain people to advocate, whether it's a veteran issue or healthcare issue or, I don't know, whatever your other issues are and stuff like that. So those are just some of the things that as a representative that we should be expected to be judged on. Let's give you, how are we doing for time? Sorry, I'm bouncing all 5 minutes. 5 minutes, all right, tons of time. So just quick background, I know some people get up here and give you the multi-generational Kansas story. I don't have that. I was born to a pair of missionaries in a small fishing village on an island in Alaska. Okay? When I was about 2 years old, though, we moved here to Kansas, to a small town called Sterling. Some of you guys might know it's over in the Hutchinson area. If you're big sports fans, you know they just won the 1A state football and basketball championship this year. Go Bears. And then I have left Kansas. Like I said, I went and served in the Marine Corps for 8 years. After I got out, I came back, went to Kansas Wesleyan University in Salina, got my degree in psychology and counseling. Let's see. Did a couple of years as a counselor doing substance abuse counseling, working with people that were in a really bad place in their life, right? Some of them, just their own personal struggles. A lot of them were through the criminal justice system, so I worked with people that were murderers, rapists, things like that. Did that for a couple of years. And then went back to school to Emporia State University, got my master's in education. And my first teaching job was in the prison system in Larned, and then worked my way up to Rock Creek where I've been. So that's kind of who I am. Like I said, what question? Sorry, not a career
Hopefully
politician.
Rock Creek is a step up from Larned.
It is a drastic step up. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask you some education questions.
All
Or
right.
maybe this isn't fair. And this is coming from, just so you don't mind, I'm married to a teacher, and my parents were education for a long time. Yeah.
I'm married to a teacher.
So would you support expanding school choice by allowing education dollars to follow every student?
Yes, 100%. Like I was saying, they did pass that bill a couple years ago. The kids get to move within public schools, and that money kind of sort of falls, and it lags severely, and they don't get the full amount. But yes, as far as like private schools, public schools, homeschool options and stuff like that, there's a very large conversation we have to have around that. Because I don't want to take, like I said, we spend about $20,000 a year in Kansas for each of our K-12 kids. I don't want to take that money and throw it at private school. I know some of our Catholic schools would be like, great, but you also have to look at the opposite side. You're going to have some schools of other religions and not religions that are anti, right? Do you really want your $20,000 a year going to those facilities? And that answer would be no. But there's a lot of things we can do. In the Manhattan area, for example, their Parks and Rec department gets some money, and so they do PE classes essentially for homeschool kids. So you don't have to, as a homeschool parent, you don't have to do a bunch of regulations with the state like you would if you took their money. You just get to take your kid to the rec center. They do their, an organized program. They learn some stuff about health and physical activity, stuff like that. And we can do some of that kind of stuff with private schools too. So I would be willing to give certain amounts of money to private schools, but I definitely wouldn't want to fund it at that 100% full rate and stuff like that. Because we've seen some of that in Arizona, and is it Florida, I believe, also, where they've started giving out just tons of money to homeschool kind of situations and stuff like that, and it's just bankrupting their state with the fraud that's going on. Yeah.
Let me kind of follow up with that. To me, the education is really the giant elephant in the room. It's 2/3 of our state budget. I mean, it's billions of dollars. I've told people this story a lot, that if you look at the state makeup of 105 counties, probably 90 of those, I would argue that likely the school is the biggest employer. So as a legislator, it's difficult to fight that block of voters. And then you have the Supreme Court telling you what to do as legislator, which again is why we need to vote to change that whole thing. But my question would be, what inroads can we make there to take that massive amount of money down? And again, we're failing our kids. We're graduating students who can't read, and it's sad. So how do you, everybody talks about it, but give me 2 or 3 practical solutions that you would put forth.
Yeah, so I would say it's not the elephant in the room. For a lot of people, it's the golden calf, right? It's the one thing they don't want to slaughter, and you'll get hung as a politician for saying, let's cut money. But as you said, it's 2/3 of the state budget. It's half of your property taxes. It's a huge amount of money. It's unsustainable. The way we were able to sustain it before is because of the population pyramid. We had, fewer people. Every generation kind of doubled in size. We don't have that going on anymore. It's a pencil. It's kind of starting to go the other way, right? So we were running a pyramid scheme, basically, with education, Social Security. We're going to get bit in the behind with those pretty hard. So some simpler things that we can do is eliminate a lot of the silly state regulations. As a regular school, we have to count the number of hours kids have to be in the seat to get their degree. Right? Doesn't matter if they learn the stuff on week 1, they have to sit in the seat, X amount of days and stuff like that, right? The state also gives money to schools that do online school. They have 0 regulation that they have to be in the seat. They just have to get online, do the program. Once they pass that class, they pass that class. So let's get rid of that regulation at our regular schools. Let them I don't want to use the word hybrid because somebody will think I'm talking about hybrid cars and think I'm a tree hugger or something, but let's make a hybrid system where kids can come in. I think somebody was talking about before with the colleges and stuff, right? About like English 1 and 2. Why do we have 1,000 teachers across the state teaching verbatim the same thing over and over and over again? Just tape the darn thing, watch it, take your test, right? There's some things, and there's some students that are going to need something different. They're going to need, an in-person experience. I've done both online and in-person classes. I prefer in-person classes. My own kids, I've had some in Catholic school, I've had some in public school, I've had some do online, some have done a combination of all. So those things are available. As far as consolidation, it's going to have to happen, but that's a golden calf. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Our Senator Craig Bowser. And we didn't mean to diss you. We started with the 2 guys who were running against each other. So, all right, thank you. And then
Thank you, everybody. I'm Craig Bowser. I'm your state senator, and I'm honored to work for you every day in the state senate. And I'll be sticking around, so if you need anything, don't be scared to come bend my ear. I'd love to hear from you and talk to you. I think I'm the only candidate here today who is not running for re-election this year, so I'm going to be very brief. I just want to, I'll give you some time back, I'll say that. And I just want to really give thanks. I want to thank you folks for being here. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us on a Saturday. I want to thank our organizers, Ray, Matt, Chris, and everybody that helped put this on. This is wonderful, great event. I hope we can do it again in a couple of years. But thank you guys. I know it wasn't easy to pull this together. And then I got to tell you, God has given me many blessings in my life. The greatest blessing God ever gave me is my wife, and I'm so thankful for her every day. Honey, could you stand up? She's as pretty on the inside as she is on the outside. I am a very lucky man. So thank you, everybody. Listen, we've hammered it a couple times, but the vote yes on the judicial selection, very, very important. Love to talk to you offline here about the famous Kansas triple play and how we, for 100 years we elected our judges and then how we got to where we are today. But I don't want to take up more than my 2 minutes that Ray's given me here. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you very much.
I think with that, are you all right with just a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll wrap this up with the county folks?
My battery's about to die.
Yes, yeah, you're next on the next page. Yep. Or if y'all just want to gut it out, we can keep going. I just figure everybody needs it.
I didn't want to be disrespectful, but my lunch made me sleepy.
No.
The state, school board is going to talk after our final calls. Oh, yeah. She's white.
So she's unopposed and on the Republican side. On the right. So I hear her vote no matter what.
Thank you for the information.
So who was the one that is no longer?
Our candidates were amazing. I was inspired. I was like, we have a full roster of people that are going to be good. Yeah. So if you're yeah. Had no one. I don't know if he was. He was very impressive. Oh, yeah. Oh. I was. He must stick it out. Yeah. Well, that's. It's kind of a long day. I know. I work. No. It's a long day. It is. Oh, and then I was like, yeah. Yeah.
How's Dave? All right.
That's Michael.
Michael's fine. I like this third person reference thing.
So how's your mom doing?
Oh, it's been a struggle, I think, but I mean she's getting along okay. There's been a series of things that challenge her, you know. So, and then the knee, that's a long-term thing. You know, that anesthesia thing when you're older, it's a good thing to avoid it before.
It's not good.
I think when I'm up that age, I think I'm just going to be like, can I have one of those motorized things and cut my leg off?
Just give you a good stiff drink or something.
Yeah, I don't think I would.
Pipe down.
It dulls something right there.
Yeah, I know it is.
It's It's kind of weird.
Think it affects her.
Well, she had that slight stroke and then mostly came back. And she had a little bit of a challenge in picking the right word. So, doing a lot of things, and rolling pin and mouse, whatever. It starts to really kind of be doing pretty good. I think there's just a little it's just a little gold. Come back.
Does she read puzzles or that kind of stuff?
Her thing is the market. The market.
Scout market.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
That's
she,
good. She's
well,
got
yes and no.
numbers
She's in front of Fox News Business Center a lot. And so that's most of what she can see. She's still pretty good at it. I think she's one of the luckiest. About 27%. Conservative. First, so she's never was going to be somebody who would have that's just she just wouldn't. She didn't have the. So she can still do that in her sleep, but that's kind of mostly. I don't think she's a habit. She's getting along okay, but it's definitely.
She's in church.
Yeah.
It's out.
Yeah.
Tired yet?
She needs her. I guess.
Are you learning? Somebody said your dad was Hawkins.
No, it's a walk. Yeah, he's close.
So am I. And it's getting closer. Yeah, I know. I'm just 77.
Okay.
That's getting pretty close to 80.
I was thinking 60.
Oh.
Right, yeah.
I remember you used to live across the street and play with me.
Yeah.
You had the chicken pox.
Yeah, I kind of got kind of bad.
Had them kind of bad.
All right, folks, I'm getting to let's wrap it up here. So if you can gather in about a minute, we'll finish this up.
Well, so I was younger and I passed him up there.
So, 2 years younger?
Well, I was 1 grade.
Oh, okay.
But I was kind of.
She graduated.
When's your birthday?
October.
Okay, so she's more than years. And she's sort of from this normal range.
You were third grade. She got it. I don't think she ever did. She was so exposed.
Well, and we showed up there when I started first grade. I'm not sure when I first came. It was out Alice's. We rode over to his house. We got to go meet this.
All right, folks, we're going to crank it up again here. I have Amy Cawvey.
Okay.
And she is running for State Board of Education.
I bet you did. Yeah, I've heard a few of those already. I was like, oh. So, yeah, you're right. First of all, thank you for staying. The crowd has slowly gotten less and less, so you can focus on for that. But my name's Amy Cawvey. I live down in Lansing, Kansas, and I am running to be your State Board of Education member. Danny Zach is no longer running, or he's not running this term, so I will hopefully be taking his seat. I do not have a primary opponent, but I will be on the ballot, so please, I hope you can check my name for that. But I do have an opponent in the general that is a Democrat, so hopefully you'll pick my name for that too. But why I am running is I've served on the local Lansing School Board District for 4 years, and I was able to achieve a lot at the local level that we haven't been able to do at the state level. And what I've seen is we need a state school board member that's willing to stand up and stay strong and do those things at the state level. And I will be that person. I know a lot of people say that when they run for office, but I've stood strong. I've sat there at the dais in a room full of the ACLU and the KNEA and a lot of other angry people and still stood for our students.
And at a local level, we passed the Parents' Bill of Rights, when on the state level, that was vetoed by Governor Kelly, if you remember, and she said that she thought it should be done only at the local level. So that was the only advice I ever took from her, and I championed the Parents' Bill of Rights, and we passed that there. We passed gender ideology type policy, if you want to call it that, basically to explain that we would not allow secrets to be kept from parents. Because when I came on, one of the first things I saw was a mass email that went out to the district saying student conferences were about to, teacher-parent conferences were going to come up, and to keep those secrets from parents if you had a student that was transitioning. So we put out a policy that did not allow that. We put out a policy that took out some of those books that another candidate mentioned, like Gender Queer, that are really pornographic books out of the libraries, and appropriate materials are put in only. And then we also, one thing that is lacking focus by many school boards is focusing on student achievement. You think that would be the main thing, but most meetings only very briefly touch on that, maybe 5 minutes out of a whole 2 or 3 hour meeting. So we put forth a policy that each month we would address that. And we did all of those things. And then believe it or not, we also did it by, for the first time in over 15 years, staying revenue neutral as a local school board. And as you know, over 60% of your taxes pay for education. Well, we were able to not raise your taxes, and we all know that even if they don't raise the mill, your taxes out of your pocket still go up, right? Because your valuation's been going up. So to counter that, we lowered the mill, and we actually stayed what revenue neutral is, and more money didn't come out of your pocket. So it can be done, but at the state board, the issues that we're having is, even though we had what we thought was a solid conservative majority, and we do have a Republican majority, once you get into office, sometimes those votes change, and you get influenced by other people and administration and bureaucracy. I don't do that. I don't fall for that. So I will stand strong for that, and we need that because we have a good majority in the state legislature right now. They've passed great bills, but when they get to come down to the local level, it's the state board's job to make sure that those laws are followed. And we don't have a state board that's doing that right now. You've heard in the news about the blueprint for literacy. It's because so many of our kids can't read. Some of them can't read well enough to pass a screener to go into a tech vocational program if they want to be a plumber, if they want to be an electrician. They can't pass those. So the legislature did a good job, and they passed the blueprint for literacy. And it had measurements that schools had to make, right? Some of those measurements were certain gains each year, and that is based on the end-of-year state assessments. So our job as a state board is to ensure those are followed, correct? Well, what did our state board do the following year? They lowered the standards. They changed the test. So automatically, kids made that 10 to 15% gain. That handcuffs the entire legislation that went through. It doesn't hold schools accountable. So that's the type of change that we need at a state board level. Right now, they have an adversarial relationship with the legislature, but it's not their job to do that. We're supposed to work with them, to be a liaison with them and ensure that local districts are adhering to this. I've testified on several bills down at the State House, and what I see is the KNEA and KASB are there testifying against them, and what they will say is they want local control. Local control is ideal. It's one of the Republican principles. But the reason why they want that is because they know they have local school boards that are stacked with people that will vote the way they want. And right now they have some people on the state board that will do that too. So we need state school board members that will stand up strong and use their power. What is their power? If you're not an education junkie like me, you might not know. Their power is to accreditate these schools. And right now, we have some members that say they don't want any school to lose accreditation. Well, of course, theoretically, we don't, right? We want our schools to be great. But when we are ranked 40th in the state, and the State Board of Education's vision is to lead the world, something needs to change. And it's not lowering the standards. So that's why I'm running. Our job is to remove that, or at least put them on probation for that accreditation until they do what's necessary. And you'll hear a lot about SPED funding, that we're not fully funding SPED. The last 5 years, the legislature who appropriates that has given over $100 million in addition to SPED. I'm not saying cut SPED programming, but I'm saying it needs a forensic audit. You can accomplish the same amount of things, but done in a more financially sound way.
I can testify to that.
Yeah, SPED is a big.
Full investigators.
Yeah.
Not enough people to actually help your children. I have a child that needs some help, and I see more administrators than I ever do see a speech pathologist.
That's a huge problem. Actually, administrators, I'm glad you mentioned that. If you look at your, if you look at your local funding, actually this is statewide, administration has went up 160%. All those administrators make at a minimum $100K a year. When you were somebody was talking earlier about how much we lose if it was if we turned away federal funds. That's $600 million. But you know how much we spend on administration alone in Kansas on education? $1 billion of the money appropriated. So we have, there used to be like a joke in the military, you have one person to do the job, one person to watch that person, and one person to supervise that. In the school system, you have about 10. And you have one teacher who, when I talk about an administrator that starts at $100K, a teacher in Kansas starts at $40,000 to $45,000. It's not the teachers that are eating up that, it's the admin. If you talk to any teacher, we are way admin heavy, and that's where most of the money is going. And SPED 2 needs to be forensically looked at each district, because what's happening is they think because it's a SPED requirement, it's a blank check, and it's not. And that's where you can consolidate some of your SPED services in districts. But in rural districts, that's one area I disagree that it wouldn't make sense to combine those districts, because you're already traveling at a large distance to get to school. Where I'm from, it's only about a mile to the next school district. So that would make sense to share things like SPED that's more expensive. But out here, that wouldn't make sense at all. That would cost more. So what I would like to do on the state board is to cut the admin costs, cut some of the programs, the woke programs like SEL and DEI. That was another issue when President Trump issued those executive orders removing DEI, CRT, and making sure boys were in their correct bathroom and protecting our girls. The state board just thumbed their nose. They just ignored them. They issued zero guidance to local schools. And when serving on a local school board, unfortunately at that time, the majority of our board said, until we hear from the state board, we're not doing anything. So what do we have? We have 4 schools now in Kansas who are being sued because they can't figure out which bathroom to use and who should play a certain sport, and they're keeping secrets from parents. And we have another school that has what they call an underground rainbow railroad. Such a weird term, but basically it's what I talked about at the beginning, was keeping those secrets from parents, keeping you out of the loop. And it's probably not happening as much up here as it is down in Johnson County. But I say Johnson County is kind of our California. What's going on there is going to seep their way out. So we need to work on those. They should have put out guidance on those, and now it's going to cost Kansas. So that's sort of why I'm running, pretty much in a nutshell. The money waste, the physical responsibility that should be on the state board, working with the legislature, ensuring that those laws are carried out at a local level, having accreditation means something, and addressing the literacy crisis. Because another issue that was put into play with the standards, they're so focused on increasing the graduation percentage that diploma has become an attendance certificate. It's not competency. We've got colleges that kids have to take remedial classes, even if they have a 4.0 in high school. They can't figure out why their ACT score is low and why they have to then take a remedial class. So we need to look at that. We need to end the social promotion. That started years ago. The kids in 3rd grade, if they can't read by the end of 3rd grade or test at those levels, then they may have to repeat. But we're hurting them by what we're doing now, by just continuing to promote them. Some other states have made progress. Mississippi, Tennessee has ended social promotion. We need to look at all of those items and not just focus on the percentage that is graduating, but if they're actually competent. and whether they can move on. Because right now, the numbers are only 17%. The one thing that we unfortunately leading Kansas on is the decline in ACT schools. That's what we're leading. So I know we've been limited on time, so I'd rather answer some questions.
I think we're going to
Do you even have
yeah,
okay. Well, if you do have questions,
yeah,
I'll be here.
Yeah, I would love to ask you questions, but I think we're all convinced that you're on.
No, okay, sorry. But if you do, I'm very open. I put my cell phone number out everywhere. Call me, text me. I prefer text than me. But I have my cards. I'll be available to you, and if I'm elected, I'll be available, of course, to continue. So thank you.
Sean was up way earlier, so we're going to let him just do 2 minutes, and he's got a scat, right?
4 o'clock.
2 minutes, 4 minutes.
Stick around.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Sean, welcome.
All right. Well, it's a small enough crowd. I think I'd probably talk without holding this up here. So, my name's Sean Willcott. I'm the House Rep for District 62, which is Nemaha, Brown, and Northern Jackson counties. This last session was my first session at the legislature, followed by Randy Garber. So, we had worked on a bill 3 years ago, which actually got me interested with the process. So, I'll introduce myself really fast. I'll try to keep it at 2 minutes and kind of go from there. So, my wife and I live just outside of Holton with our used to have 3 kids. We have 3 kids. 2 of them are now out of the house, off into Kansas City already. So it goes quick. In the legislature, some of the things that I had worked on this last year, I sit on Federal and State Affairs, Commerce Committee, and Social Service Budget. So it is a broad range and had a lot of activity, and it's an area that helped me focus on where I came from. So my wife and I owned a couple of small businesses before I got involved. Prior to that, I was an engineer. So my background is in engineering. Now, when I'm not at the Capitol, I put the engineering hat back on. So the thing I really enjoy the most about it, I've been very honored to be in this role. The thing I enjoy the most about it is interacting with the folks around the district and helping them. Could be a farmer here in Jackson County where we worked on an issue, or a business way outside of Seneca, business in Sabetha, folks over in Hiawatha. That's the thing that I think the role really has the benefit and the potential of being able to help folks in our district push things. So I can't sit here and tell you I'm an expert on every single category, because I'm not. The areas where I do have strengths are more in the engineering, the business. God is number one, family, small business, or small government. I'm for businesses, small government. So I told you it'd be just a couple of minutes. That was a short and sweet version of it. I would love to answer questions or take questions on the side, but I do need to be out of here in about 15 minutes or so. So with that, I'll open it up. I told you I'd keep it short and sweet, so I did.
That's great. We appreciate that. I think you got everybody's votes, right, for just that.
Thank you, Sean.
All right. Any questions for Sean? Nope. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, next up, Ray said he's running out of batteries, so there's a lot of Nemaha.
Yeah, let's get the Nemaha County Commissioner
folks.
race going for sure. So
So we have first on this list is Ed Steinway.
we want to cut these a little bit shorter.
Yeah, like 5-6 minutes.
My name's Ed Steinway. I'm running for the District 1 County Commissioner in Nemaha County. Born in Seneca, lived and raised in Sabetha. I work in Sabetha. My wife works in Sabetha. I have 1 son. I have a grandbaby on the way. My talking points are pretty simple, and a lot of it's what people have come and talked to me about since I've announced that I'm going to run. But the big one for me is this data center, and it's wrong. Shouldn't be happening. The biggest thing that I've heard from other counties is, look at all the tax money it's going to create, and what's all the bad things it's going to do for our county. I don't think that that's being talked about in Nemaha County, but it's coming. They're trying to drive it in every county there is. Solar and wind, I'm for it if it doesn't have to be subsidized. Solar, don't put it in 80 acres of field. Put it on your barns, put it on your homes, put it on parking garages, do whatever. We have a county administrator for Nemaha County, does not live in our county. I believe he works part-time, doesn't pay any taxes in our county. We got along without a county administrator. Someone spoke earlier, they made the comment that I won't know everything until I'm in there, and I agree. I can't sit here and say I know exactly how this is going to work out. I don't, because I don't get to see all the behind the stuff that my running mate gets to see. And they make decisions based off of everything they're told, not just off the little bits and pieces that we are told as a public. Executive sessions. Executive sessions, I think, are abused. They're abused at the county level. They're abused at the city level. There's a time and a place. There was a conversation just not too long ago that there's a lot of stuff that's done in executive session that can be talked about in the public. I think that's how all of us are able to find out what's going on in our county. That's how that's how we know it's time to go sit in a city commission meeting and know what we want to ask questions about. But if you have an executive meeting and make all the decisions and then bring it up for a vote and nobody finds out about it until after it's already done, I don't think that's right. Our HR does not live in our county. HR is out of the state. People need to be able to go talk to HR. The company I work for, we have to have an HR on site. We should have one in our county. I don't think we take good care of our county employees. Insurance, the guy talked earlier about health insurance. We got to take care of our people. If they don't have good health insurance, they're going to go find somewhere else that they can find good health insurance, or they find people that are going to take care of them better than our county does. And health insurance is expensive. Emergency service. I've been a 20-year EMT. I've worked in a volunteer system. I haven't made a lot of money in EMS, but I've volunteered a lot of hours for Sabetha. And EMS is expensive. We just lost our administrator for our emergency management. Great guy, good job, did awesome for us. And I don't think we worked hard enough to keep him. We'll have a hard time finding anybody to fill his shoes. I think we ought to be video meetings. Public ought to be able to see what we're talking about and what we're doing. So that's kind of my hot list there that I was going to talk about. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. I know we're short on time. I can stay a little while. If anybody wants to come talk to me, I'll do it afterwards. Thank you.
Next up, Ben Glace. Also running for Nemaha. County Commissioner.
He is county.
Yeah, but he is running too, right?
Yeah. So Ben Glace, I'm not going to talk a bunch of platitudes or anything. I'll just kind of get right to the point. I won't be too long. There's a lot that goes on in the county. A lot of decisions that have to be made. As Ed said, a lot of things that many people sometimes don't know all the decisions that go into it. But for the most part, if you agree with the things that have gone on in the county for the past 3.5 years, I humbly accept that you would vote for me. If not, that's fine too. The kind of the things that we've gotten done in the past few years, yes, we did talk about health insurance, and we have reduced the cost of health insurance. It's taken 4 years almost to get to the point where we can maybe start to really quote, and we're working currently with our local medical facilities to also provide services to them in a better way than maybe what a healthcare might. So we're looking at that. But yeah, the cost savings are significant. They're $250,000 a year in perpetuating from there. So where can that money go to? As far as financially, we did implement a detailed audit that's ongoing to try and really take a look at the budget and find out where all the money's going. Not saying it's not going where it should, but we really need to get down to like the budget level, which was very general and high level the past 4 years. As far as what's going on in the county right now, we had $2 million of ARPA funds that we've had in interest-bearing account for, I think it was 4 years. So we were able to take that money and now start deploying it for capital projects. So not increasing salaries as some places did that continually cost you more money. So capital projects, we gave $50,000 to each water district because water is so important in our area for well and generators as well. And then we also are building an EMS building that we will no longer be paying rent for, so it's moving that money around into a new EMS building, working with EMS provider over in that district. And then we also are doing the new road from Oneida to Bern as well, which is a stability-based concrete chip and seal, so we've done that as well, shifted some money around. And then with remaining ARPA funds, we did, oh shoot, I can't remember now. But essentially, we've taken the money that we had for 4 years, earned interest on it, and are now deploying it with the final amounts for capital improvements across the county. So, I mean, those are some of the main things that are going on right now. And again, as far as going forward, I'll continue to say yes when I mean yes and no when I mean no, and do what I've been doing. So, any questions?
Thank you. Hi. Two more on my list. So we have Richard, and I'm sorry, Richard, I'm going to butcher your last name. Where are you?
I don't believe he's here.
He's not here? Okay. Somebody help me. Tesserero? Okay. So he's not here. So then we're down to Doug Fisher. Doug, come on up. Doug's not being primary, but he's running for commissioner in Jackson County.
Okay, well, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version first. So I'm Doug Fisher from Western Jackson County, to help a little bit. And the Cliff Notes version is that I was born and raised here, grew up on a farm here, still farm here. I have very diversified life experiences. One of the things that perhaps people ought to ask their county commissioners, candidates, is that because, you know, there's some jobs, I mean, a lot of jobs are not like that. What experiences do you have that you could evaluate the issues that come before you as a commissioner? And varied life experiences will help that. Short version, I was county attorney in Jackson County 20 plus years ago. I did run a very lean office at that time. I didn't go in and ask for a raise immediately after I got into office. We had 1.5 attorneys at most and 2 office assistants. And that was the time when meth labs were at their prime. We had a meth lab almost every week. So we were having high-level drug offenses I was having to deal with. Another note is when I get into something, I go full bore. I still farm pretty much full-time. An example of that is 10 years ago, I had total knee replacement on both knees the same day. My goal within 3 weeks was to climb into my tractor cab, and then a few weeks later, I was able to get into my small airplane that I used to have. So as I said, I was born and raised here. We had a diversified farm, cattle, hogs, crops, hay. Graduated from K-State with an agricultural degree. Shortly after that, farming wasn't enough, so I welded for 2 years, building mowers. And then a couple of years later, I started in the food industry, manufacturing canned foods while still farming. And it was during that process I decided that maybe I wanted to do something a little more, so I applied to Washburn Law School. I was in my upper 30s at that time. I graduated when I was 41. I was the second oldest in my class. I still had 2 small children at home. I drove 40 miles each way to school, still farming, and I graduated in the upper 30%, which is just the way it was. Don't say anything about it. My focus was on tax and local government, contracts, and real estate. Before I passed the bar, I started working for the Kansas Supreme Court in the reporter's office, which meant that I went between all of the justices and judges' offices and worked with them in the final preparation of their opinions to be published. In that process, I learned the appellate process very well.
I worked there approximately 2 years. I decided to get more home to my roots, and so the county attorney's job was coming open, so I had to resign a year ahead to actually run for the county attorney's job. I worked as assistant in Jeff County for a year, and then was county attorney for 4 years, dealing with all kinds of issues. At that time, my dad was becoming ill, and so I didn't run again because I had to go take care of the farm full time. At some point there, I was assistant for a couple more years, helping another county attorney get started. A few years ago, I started working as appointed defense counsel, working with alleged criminal offenders. Did that for a year, and I've done some civil work since. My diversified experience just comes from this whole variety of experiences. I can, talk to just about anybody and relate to what they've done because I've done most of it. Some of the issues that I see in the county is we're losing our economic base to larger entities coming in and buying up our land and using our resources. They're bringing their resources down here to use. They use our land and sunlight and water, and then they take the harvest or electricity, is what is proposed, out of the county, and so we're basically losing our economic base, and that's happening all across the western and the northern half of our county. There's a billboard sign. Why am I running? There's a billboard sign south of Holt that says, essentially, if you don't like what's happening, get involved. This wasn't what I had planned to do with my older years. I saw a need. No one else was stepping up, so I decided to step up and do it. So I'll be postponing some of my plans. So that's basically my spiel in a nutshell. You got any questions?
Thank you, Doug. And as a Jackson County resident, we are very so appreciative of you running, and I can't wait to vote your opponent out of office.
And just for example, I try to carry a roadmap of the county and a directory with me wherever I go. Out of the farm, so if somebody talks to me, I say, where is that at? Because I don't know the whole county.
Are you in this drawing? Okay. Well, then you aren't. Oh,
He's not here.
He's not here.
He's not here.
He's not here. I'm going to have you draw.
Okay.
So, hold on. Anybody else want to get in on the gun drawing?
Yeah. It's too late.
So then you draw
I
your
can
name.
draw you. Put your money in there, Doug.
Yeah.
I'm not in there.
You want to draw?
Yeah.
What would be quick?
Buy a ticket. Buy a ticket. Put your name in there.
Anybody want to buy one more ticket?
Come on.
I'll tell you what. I'll draw for these 3 books if Doug wants to buy a ticket real quick. And then if you win one of these books, we'll put your name back in. Is that fair enough?
Steve.
Yeah.
You go draw the gun.